Chapter 10:10. On the bedsheet, a blood-red plum blossom was so eye-catching. You saw it? Lu Yuan asked faintly. How is this possible? This is impossible. Chihiro Snow was shocked, her eyes were full of disbelief. Everything in front of her had completely overturned her understanding. Nothing is impossible. This is the truth. The truth is that before I had sex with Dong-er, she was still a virgin, so how could she be your mother? Lu Yuan said softly, his eyes couldn't help but look at Bibidon. Aware of Lu Yuan's gaze, Bibidon smiled gently, her eyes full of love. Lu Yuan returned a look, his eyes full of gentleness. This is impossible, this is impossible. Chihiro Snow's expression changed rapidly. Bibidon really wasn't her mother. She couldn't believe it, and she didn't want to believe it, but the plum blossom was so dazzling, announcing that this was the truth. Chihiro Snow couldn't accept it. She really couldn't accept that the woman she had hated for more than 20 years wasn't her mother. Share. Lu Yuan hugged Chihiro Snow, gently patted Chihiro Snow's back, and said, accept the reality, Share, Dong-er really isn't your mother. The truth is in front of you. No, I don't accept it. If she isn't my mother, then who is my mother? Who is? Why have I never seen her before, but have been despised by this woman since I was young? Chihiro Snow grabbed Lu Yuan's collar and questioned. Share, don't be agitated. Lu Yuan said. Bullshit, how can I not be agitated? Tell me, if Bibidon isn't my mother, then who is? Chihiro Snow shouted at Lu Yuan. You don't have a mother, Lu Yuan said loudly. What did you say? Chihiro Snow's mind suddenly went blank. She stared blankly at Lu Yuan and asked, what did you just say? I said, you don't have a mother, Lu Yuan said softly. Hee. Chihiro Snow sneered. She looked at Lu Yuan with cold eyes and said indifferently, I don't have a mother. Do you think I jumped out of a stone? Although she didn't jump out from a crack in a rock, it's not far from it. You really don't have a mother, Lu Yuan said in a deep voice. Do you think I'll believe your nonsense? Chihiro Snow said with some amusement. It doesn't matter if you don't believe me. I have evidence, Lu Yuan said calmly. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow's heart suddenly thumped. She had a bad premonition. She looked at Lu Yuan and saw that Lu Yuan's face was full of confidence. Suddenly, the uneasiness in her heart grew stronger. She knew Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan was a person who never fought a battle that he wasn't sure of winning. Since he looked so confident, he must have sufficient evidence to prove that it was most likely true. Thinking of this, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but panic. An inconceivable thought emerged in her mind. Could it be that she really doesn't have a mother? No, it's impossible. Chihiro Snow held on to the last trace of hope in her heart and looked at Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan glanced at Chihiro Snow and Bibidon. At the same time, he operated his mental power and images appeared in front of the two women. Mental manifestation. When one's mental power reached a certain level, they could use their mental power to manifest fragments of their memories. Lu Yuan pointed at the first image. It was the scene 2 days ago when Lu Yuan had just come out of the Angel Temple. There's something I haven't told you. Now it's time to tell you. There's actually a strange treasure in my body. This strange treasure is extremely powerful. It can even take me through time and space. 2 days ago, after coming out of the Angel Temple, I used this strange treasure to go back in time 26 years ago. Lu Yuan pointed at the first image and said slowly. 2 days ago, Lu Yuan was walking out of the Angel Temple with his hands behind his back. Suddenly, a jingling sound rang out in his mind. Immediately, Lu Yuan's figure came to a stop, and his mind was immersed. Ding, sign-in mission issued. Sign-in location, Pope's Palace from 26 years ago. Sign-in time, 3 minutes. Sign-in rewards, 1 in 8 pure yin divine embryo, 1 title Douluo draw card, and 1 Dragon King of Light's left leg bone. Hearing this sign-in mission, Lu Yuan's eyes suddenly lit up, and an astonishing light burst out from his eyes. A sign-in mission from 26 years ago? Lu Yuan touched his chin with his right hand and muttered softly, could it be related to Dong-er? I think so. I'm 19 this year, And Cher is 6 years older than me. She's only 25 years old. Wasn't that the time of the incident 26 years ago? Now it seems that I stopped that incident, so Dong-er was able to keep her virginity. Yes, that should be it. Lu Yuan thought to himself. It was because he went back in time 26 years ago to stop Chihiro Disease's atrocities that Bibidan's virginity was preserved. At this moment, Lu Yuan finally understood everything. Then how did Cher come about? What is this innate pure yin divine embryo? Lu Yuan's gaze landed on the reward. Needless to say, he was very familiar with the title Douluo draw card. He had used it to draw several title Douluo. Lu Yuan was also familiar with the Dragon King of Light's right leg bone. The Dragon King of Light was also known as the Holy Dragon King. He was one of the first 9 great Dragon Kings, an existence on the same level as the Water and Fire Dragon Kings. At his peak, he was also a first-tier god. Of course, he was also a Golden Holy Dragon, which was the ancestor of the Radiant Holy Dragon. There were always people who equated the Golden Holy Dragon with the Golden Dragon, but in fact, they were 2 completely different species. The Golden Dragon was much stronger than the Golden Holy Dragon. The Dragon King of Light's right leg bone was undoubtedly a god's bone. It was extremely precious. Lu Yuan was currently lacking a proper soul bone, and this soul bone had come at the right time. However, the system had rewarded him with things that he needed over the years. Perhaps he would need them in the future, so he was already used to it. However, he was a little confused about what this innate pure yin divine embryo was, so he asked the system if he didn't know. Instead of asking now, why don't you do the mission earlier? When the reward is given out, you will naturally know what it is, the system's cold voice sounded. Oh, you have quite the temper. But you're right. Lu Yuan nodded. He would just transmigrate and be done with it. He had experienced spatial transmigration many times, but this kind of spatial transmigration was still very rare. When he came to the Douluo continent, he didn't feel anything at all. He was unconscious. This time, he wanted to experience it. System, let's begin, Lu Yuan said indifferently. Just as Lu Yuan finished speaking, a circular door suddenly appeared. Lu Yuan's figure was immediately sucked in and disappeared. Chapter 10-11. Lu Yuan's figure was shuttling through a mysterious tunnel. A rainbow-colored light swept past Lu Yuan's body, bringing with it a peculiar power of time. Is this the power of time? Lu Yuan's eyes flashed with surprise as he felt the strange power that permeated the air around him. The 4 directions of heaven and earth were the universe, and since ancient times, they had been the universe. Space and time were 2 of the most mystical powers that had existed since ancient times. No matter which world it was, those who could control these 2 powers were all top-notch powerhouses. Compared to the power of space, the power of time was undoubtedly even more mystical. The power of time was extremely mysterious, connecting the past, present, and future. Perhaps there were still people who could comprehend the power of space, but there were very few people who could comprehend the power of time. At least in the Douluo continent, no one could comprehend the mysteries of the power of time. It could even be said that whether it was the power of order or the power of good or evil, they were all inferior to the power of time in terms of rank. Perhaps in the Douluo continent, only the power of law that Lu Yuan controlled could surpass the power of time. However, Lu Yuan's power of law wasn't just a type of power, but a fusion of the power of all things. It was very difficult to find a power that could surpass the power of time. What a wonderful power of time! It seems to be even more mysterious than the power of space, Lu Yuan said as he closed his eyes and sensed it for a while. That's natural. The power of time is one of the most advanced powers, and the Great Tao of Time is one of the most top-notch Great Taos. The system's voice sounded in Lu Yuan's mind. Lu Yuan nodded when he heard that. It was true that time was supreme, and space was king. There were very few powers that could compare to the power of time. If the host is interested, you can try to comprehend it. It's a rare opportunity, and there might not be such an opportunity next time. That's true. Lu Yuan's heart skipped a beat when he heard the system's cold voice. He was probably the only person in the entire Douluo continent who had experienced traveling through time and space. After all, traveling through time and space was not something an ordinary person could do. Lu Yuan started to relax his mind as he thought about it, and started to comprehend the mystical power of time. After an unknown period of time, a hole suddenly opened beside the spacetime tunnel, and a powerful force directly sucked Lu Yuan in. Is this the Pope's palace from 26 years ago? Looking at the familiar building in front of him, Lu Yuan could not help but mutter to himself. The Pope's palace did not seem to have changed much after more than 20 years. It was still as resplendent as ever. Who dares to trespass into the Pope's palace? Lu Yuan didn't bother to hide his presence. He stood in front of the entrance of the pontiff's palace and was immediately discovered by the paladins. Looking at the incoming holy knights, Lu Yuan's eyes flashed with a faint yellow light, and in an instant, all the holy knights were under his control. The Dichoria Hell Prison Light was the most powerful spiritual control skill. With Lu Yuan's current spiritual power that was comparable to a god's, it had an extremely terrifying power. Controlling these palace knights was a waste of talent. The paladins returned to their original positions. Lu Yuan patted his sleeves and swaggered towards the Pope's palace with his hands behind his back. "Teacher, I won't leave Xiaogang. I love him." The girl's clear and firm voice rang out in the Pope's palace. "Love him? What's there to love about that trash? And don't forget, you're the holy maiden of the martial soul palace." A deep male voice rang out with a strong rage. "Even if I have to give up my identity as the holy maiden, even if I have to leave the martial soul palace, I want to be with Xiaogang." The girl's voice was filled with determination and unyielding. Xiaogang. Hearing this name, Lu Yuan, who was on his way to the Pope's palace, twitched his mouth. He suddenly realized that he was a little unhappy. "I actually forgot that the one Donga likes now is you, Xiaogang. Damn it, but fortunately, I have a way to deal with it." Thinking of the Dichoria Hell Prison Light's heaven-defying ability, Lu Yuan's heart calmed down a little. At worst, he could directly inject the memories of the later generations into Bibidon. It was simple and fast. "And I have video data. Hehe, I don't have to worry that Donga won't believe me." Lu Yuan laughed and continued to move forward. At this moment, in the Pope's palace, the dagger was revealed. A beast was about to commit his atrocities. "Teacher, let go of me. What are you trying to do?" Bibidon, who was grabbed by Chihiro disease, couldn't move at all. "Be quiet for a while, Dong-er. When you wake up, you'll completely belong to the Martial Soul Palace. You were born as a member of the Martial Soul Palace, and when you die, you'll also be a ghost of the Martial Soul Palace." Chihiro disease's eyes revealed a beastly look, and there was a lustful smile on his face. This smile made Bibidon's pupils shrink. Could it be that Chihiro disease wanted to? Thinking of this, Bibidon couldn't help but struggle fiercely. However, Chihiro disease's cultivation was much higher than hers. How could she break free? "Teacher, please don't." Bibidon begged as tears fell from her eyes. "Don't move. I'll be gentle. Dong-er, I've raised you for so many years just for this day. I originally wanted to wait a few days before touching you, but you're leaving the Martial Soul Palace for that trash. I can only bring it forward. I believe that with your genes and mine, we'll definitely be able to raise the best offspring." Chihiro disease smiled lustfully, raised his hand, and chopped directly at Bibidon's neck. If this chop hit, Bibidon would definitely pass out. "No." Bibidon let out a fierce cry, and there was a trace of despair in her eyes. "Pa." Chihiro disease's chop fell, but it didn't fall on Bibidon's neck. Instead, it was held in someone's hand. The figure gradually became visible. The newcomer had sharp eyebrows, a handsome face, and an extraordinary temperament. If it wasn't Lu Yuan, who else could it be? "Who are you?" Chihiro disease couldn't help but shout in shock when Lu Yuan held his wrist. He tried to pull his arm back, but it was as if it had grown roots in Lu Yuan's grip. No matter how much strength he used, he couldn't pull it back at all. "Chihiro disease?" Lu Yuan's eyes were cold as he spat out these two words. "Insolent. How dare you call this Pope by my name, Arch? Lu Yuan looked at him coldly, his hand holding his broken right arm. Ant. Lu Yuan said indifferently, and directly kicked Chihiro Disease's body. Suddenly, Chihiro Disease's body was sent flying, and blood spurted out of his mouth. This kick had already broken all of Chihiro Disease's ribs. Lu Yuan reached out with his left hand and pulled Bibidon's delicate body into his arms. Looking at that familiar beautiful face, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile. He reached out his right hand and gently wiped away the tears at the corner of her eyes. He said softly, "Don't be afraid, it's all right now." Chapter 10-12. Lu Yuan's voice was clear, magnetic, and full of gentleness, making Bibidon's somewhat fearful heart slowly calm down. Feeling Lu Yuan's hand caressing her cheek, Bibidon couldn't help but feel a burst of shyness in her heart. Her cheeks were slightly red. This was the first time she was so close to someone. "Can you let go of me?" Bibidon gently moved her body and whispered. As a clean and honest girl, Bibidon couldn't accept being held in the arms of a strange man. Although, this man was unbelievably handsome, so handsome that even she couldn't take her eyes off him. "Let go of you." Lu Yuan smiled gently, his smile was bright and warm. En. Bibidon nodded her little head obediently, her pink eyes looking at him expectantly. "I'm sorry, I can't." Lu Yuan smiled and said. "Ah." Bibidon opened her little mouth wide. Looking at Lu Yuan's bright and warm smile, she thought Lu Yuan had agreed, but she didn't expect a direct turn of events. "Haha, I didn't expect you to have such a cute and innocent time." Looking at Bibidon with her mouth wide open and a face full of astonishment, Lu Yuan couldn't help but laugh. This was the first time he had seen Bibidon like this. The Bibidon of 26 years later was mature and understanding, graceful and noble, but she lacked this innocence. And now, he saw this trait in the Bibidon of 26 years ago. "You know me." Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Bibidon wrinkled her cute and delicate nose and asked somewhat puzzledly. "More than no, we're very familiar." Lu Yuan smiled faintly. "I'm not lying, I'm very familiar with every part of your body. Have I seen you before?" Bibidon frowned. Her pink eyes sized up Lu Yuan. If she had seen such a handsome person before, she would definitely have a deep impression of him. However, she did not have any memory of this person. "Of course you have, but not now," Lu Yuan said. "Not now?" Bibidon's delicate face showed a trace of confusion. What did he mean? Why is this person speaking so hard to understand? Furthermore, this person seemed to be filled with mystery. Not only was he ridiculously handsome, but his abilities were also extremely terrifying. Her teacher was a titled Douluo, yet he was able to completely cripple her teacher with just a few simple moves. Just how powerful was he? Could it be that he had already reached the legendary level of an exceptional Douluo? However, looking at his age, he didn't seem to be as old as him. It was impossible for him to have such a high cultivation. Bibidon's mind was in turmoil. "What are you thinking about?" Lu Yuan asked as he pinched Bibidon's nose. "Don't touch me. Do you understand that men and women shouldn't touch each other?" Bibidon avoided Lu Yuan's hand and said angrily. "It's fine if you don't let go of me, but you actually dared to touch me. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you saved me. I don't understand." Lu Yuan shook his head and said seriously. After that, he hugged Bibidon even tighter. "Bibidon, if not for the fact that I couldn't break free, if not for the fact that I couldn't beat you, I would definitely teach you a lesson." Bibidon's pretty face puffed up. She glared at Lu Yuan with her beautiful eyes and a look of indignation on her face. She didn't know why, but when Chihiro Disease hugged her, she would be afraid and would struggle fiercely. That lecherous gaze terrified her. However, when this man in front of her, who was much stronger than her teacher, hugged her, not only did she not feel much fear, but she also felt very at ease. She even dared to throw a little tantrum, as if this man in front of her would never hurt her. Moreover, although this man in front of her had been teasing her, the doting gaze in his eyes couldn't be concealed at all. This gaze made Bibidon quite happy. More importantly, This man always had an aura that made her want to get close to him. Bibidon stared at Lu Yuan, but her heart was in turmoil. She clearly liked Xiao Gang, but when she saw him, she unconsciously forgot about Xiao Gang's figure and only had eyes for him. This feeling really made Bibidon feel a little strange. Lu Yuan chuckled softly as he looked at Bibidon's pretty face. Ask whatever you want, and I'll answer all of them. He had been with Bibidon for a long time. Even after 26 years, Bibidon's thoughts couldn't be hidden from him, let alone the pure and innocent Bibidon now. How old are you this year? What's your rank? Bibidon looked at Lu Yuan curiously. She wanted to know how old this boy, who looked even younger than her, was. I just turned 19 this year, and I'm a rank 89 Soul Douluo. Lu Yuan naturally wouldn't hide anything from Bibidon, even if this was the Bibidon from 26 years ago. 19 years old, rank 89? How is that possible? Bibidon was astonished. She was 24 years old this year, and she was only rank 68. One had to know that she was the Holy Lady of the Martial Soul Palace, and one of the top prodigies in the world. However, this man in front of her was a 19-year-old rank 89 Soul Douluo. This must be a lie. Bibidon looked at him suspiciously. Why can't it be possible? Nothing is impossible in this world. Lu Yuan chuckled. He couldn't help but pinch Bibidon's face again. It was full of collagen, and it felt good to pinch. Don't pinch my face. I already said that men and women shouldn't touch each other. Bibidon dodged Lu Yuan's demonic claws again, and looked at him angrily. Haha. Lu Yuan chuckled. He didn't seem to care. Bibidon pouted. She looked at Lu Yuan silently. Even if you're rank 89, how can a Soul Douluo like you defeat my teacher? He's a titled Douluo. Bibidon questioned. Him? He's just a piece of trash. Furthermore, who told you that a Soul Douluo can't defeat a titled Douluo? Since when is fighting strength measured by one's rank? Lu Yuan extended his hand again as he spoke. Don't pinch my face. Bibidon glared at him and said coquettishly. All right, Sai, I just want to be close to you. Lu Yuan sighed softly and said. Who wants to be close to you? Bibidon muttered. Her expression turned serious. She said, even if what you said earlier is true, the last question is, who are you? Do you want to know? Lu Yuan asked with a smile. Yes. Bibidon nodded. Do you really want to know? Lu Yuan asked again. Of course. Bibidon said with certainty. I'm willing to tell you. I'm just afraid that you won't believe me. After all, my identity is very special. Lu Yuan said. I'm willing to believe you as long as you say it. Bibidon said. All right, I'll tell you then. Actually, I'm your future husband. Lu Yuan said with a serious expression. Bibidon was confused. Chapter 10:13. Is it fun for you to lie to me? Bibidon frowned her beautiful eyebrows, looked at Lu Yuan, and said discontentedly. Lie to you? I didn't lie to you. I'm really your future husband. Lu Yuan said with a sigh. Hehe, do you think I'm a fool? Bibidon sneered and said lightly. Of course you're not a fool. You're very smart. Lu Yuan said sincerely. No matter when, Bibidon was not a fool. Even now, she was pure and naive, but she was absolutely smart. Then why did you lie to me? Bibidon said with some resentment. I really didn't lie to you. I would lie to anyone but you. I told you that you didn't believe me, but you insisted that I say it. Lu Yuan said gently. Mph, I thought you would say it seriously. Who knew that you were talking nonsense? Bibidon snorted and said. I'm not talking nonsense. You'll know when you see it. Lu Yuan said and moved his head closer to Bibidon. What are you doing? Help. Bibidon saw this and struggled violently. She thought that Lu Yuan was going to take advantage of her. Ouch. A hand pinched Bibidon's face directly, causing her to cry out in pain. Lu Yuan looked at her and said snappily, What are you crying for? I'm not going to force you. I just want to show you something. What is it? Bibidon said weakly. You'll know when you see it. Lu Yuan said and lowered his head again. Don't move. If you move, I'll really kiss you, Lu Yuan said lightly, causing Bibidon's delicate body to suddenly stop moving. She stared at Lu Yuan with her big pink eyes. She watched as he came closer and closer until their foreheads were completely pressed against each other. Their eyes met. The two of them were so close that they could smell each other's breaths. Bibidon could even smell the fresh scent coming from Lu Yuan's body. It was very clean and very pleasant to the nose. Her pretty face turned as red as an apple in an instant, and her little heart started to beat rapidly. Even her breathing became a little hurried. She had never been so close to a man before. You seem a little nervous. Looking at Bibidon's shy and evasive eyes, Lu Yuan couldn't help but chuckle. The Bibidon from 26 years ago was really innocent and cute. He had always seen the mature Bibidon, but now, the little bunny-like Bibidon really gave him a different feeling. Who's nervous? I'm not, Bibidon said, pretending to be calm. So cute. Lu Yuan couldn't help but sigh. What? Bibidon asked. I said you're really cute. You're really completely different from the future you. Lu Yuan said with a smile. You're talking nonsense again. Bibidon looked at Lu Yuan's eyes and said snappily. What future you? You're just spouting all sorts of nonsense. Whether I'm talking nonsense or not, you'll know soon enough. Lu Yuan stared at Bibidon's eyes. The memories in his mind turned into a ball of light that emerged from Lu Yuan's forehead and then entered Bibidon's mind. The sudden influx of a large amount of memories made Bibidon suddenly stiffen. Her eyes couldn't help but reveal a hint of confusion. Lu Yuan didn't disturb her. The memories were very large, and she needed to spend some time to sort them out. Lu Yuan and Bibidon were very close. Their lips were only a few fingers apart. Lu Yuan could even clearly smell the fragrance of Bibidon's cherry lips. It's still the same taste. Lu Yuan sighed in his heart. Suddenly, the system's voice sounded in his mind. Ding. Mission completed. Rewards issued. Congratulations to the host for obtaining an innate pure yin divine embryo, a title Douluo draw card, and a Dragon King of light left leg bone. Mission completed. Lu Yuan was delighted and began to check the details of the rewards. Lu Yuan knew about the title Douluo draw card and the Dragon King of light left leg bone. However, Lu Yuan was very curious about the innate pure yin divine embryo. An innate pure yin divine embryo is an innate pure yin divine embryo formed from innate pure yin qi. It contains the purest yin qi, but yin qi cannot be born alone. If pure yang qi can be integrated into it, yin and yang can be reconciled, and it can give birth to a new life. As it is formed from innate pure yin qi, the life born will definitely be female. F*ck. What the F*ck? Seeing this introduction, Lu Yuan was completely dumbfounded. When he thought of the pure yin qi that suddenly appeared from Chihiro Snow's body, he suddenly understood everything. So, system, Cher was born from this innate pure yin divine embryo? Lu Yuan secretly contacted the system. Yes. The system said coldly. So, Cher isn't a pure human? Lu Yuan couldn't help but ask. If she was born from an innate pure yin divine embryo, could she still be considered a pure human? Then, host, are you a pure human? The system asked back. Lu Yuan, alright, he wasn't a pure human either. His body was created by the system using the blood of the golden dragon. In that case, Cher and I are a perfect match. We're not humans, but we're both humans. Lu Yuan laughed in his heart. You can say that, the system replied. Then, what kind of existence is Cher? Lu Yuan couldn't help but ask. Host, do you know of the Snow Emperor? The system asked. Of course, Iceman is a creature born from the ice and snow of the extreme north. She can be considered a natural-born creature, Lu Yuan said. Chihiro Snow is about the same. The innate pure yin divine embryo belongs to the innate pure yin divine embryo. If Chihiro Snow was born, she could barely be considered an innate life form. The system's cold voice sounded in Lu Yuan's mind. A innate life form? That's true. Cher's talent is so high. If she wasn't born from Dong-er, It would be hard to explain where her talent came from. After all, Chihiro Disease's talent was ordinary. How could other women give birth to a daughter with such high talent like Cher? Now, it's all clear. A innate life form, how could her talent not be high? Lu Yuan said in realization. Host, you're wrong. Chihiro Snow's true talent hasn't been unlocked yet. Don't forget about her second martial soul, the system reminded him. That's true. Cher's talent hasn't been fully revealed yet. I must find her the best second martial soul. What do you think of the Snow Emperor? As long as the host thinks it's good, the system said and went silent again. The Snow Emperor should be pretty good. It has the ultimate snow attribute and is a natural-born iceman. It's a perfect match for Cher. Lu Yuan muttered to himself as he thought. Chapter 10:14. Chihiro Snow's second martial soul was only a martial soul's origin. As for what kind of martial soul it was, it still depended on what kind of soul beast it was. Qian Renshue's second martial soul would possess the three elements of pure yin, ultimate ice, and ultimate cold as long as the soul beast was of the yin element, even if the soul beast's quality was inferior. In terms of quality, it wouldn't be inferior to his first martial soul, the eight-winged angel. However, there was no doubt that the better the soul beast, the stronger Chihiro Snow's second martial soul would be. Currently, the two most powerful soul beasts with the yin-type soul beast were the Snow Emperor Iceman and the Ice Jade Empress Scorpion. Between the Snow Emperor and the Ice Empress, the Snow Emperor was undoubtedly stronger. This wasn't just because the Snow Emperor's ultimate snow was a variant of ultimate ice. To Chihiro Snow, the combination of the Snow Emperor's ultimate snow and her martial soul's origin could create an extremely powerful martial soul. It could even surpass the eight-winged angel. Another important point was that the Snow Empress was a human-shaped soul beast. Among all the known soul beasts, the Snow Empress was probably the only human-shaped soul beast that was known to be the Snow Empress. Thinking about it this way, his first martial soul, the eight-winged angel, and his second martial soul, the Iceman, were both human-shaped martial souls. Wasn't that a good match? The most important thing was that both of their martial souls were very beautiful female. That was wonderful. I've digressed. But all in all, the Snow Emperor was definitely the most suitable martial soul for Chihiro Snow's second martial soul. It couldn't be missed. As for how to deal with the Snow Emperor, Lu Yuan hadn't thought about it yet. However, he seemed to remember that the Snow Emperor had 690,000 years of cultivation. It wasn't far from 700,000 years of cultivation. He could start from there. Lu Yuan thought to himself. As Lu Yuan pondered, a quarter of an hour passed unknowingly. At this time, Bibidon had finally finished digesting the huge amount of memories. She opened her beautiful eyes and looked at Lu Yuan. There was less unfamiliarity in her pink eyes, but there was more longing and tenderness in them. Is that true? Bibidon asked seriously. Don't you already know whether it's true or not? Dong. Lu Yuan said with a smile. Bibidon was silent for a moment. Although she was shocked and caught off guard by the memories, that innate familiarity, the pain and struggle she experienced, and the sweetness and beauty of being immersed in love, everything was so real. Her reason told her that it was real. Of course, the familiar physical features she saw in her memory made her believe that it was real. Are you really from 26 years in the future? Bibidon asked. Of course. Otherwise, with my high talent, handsome appearance, and powerful strength, how could you not have heard of me with the Martial Soul Palace's intelligence-gathering ability? Lu Yuan asked with a smile. Yes. Bibidon nodded and agreed with this statement. If Lu Yuan was really from the current era, with his excellence, it was impossible for her not to have heard of his name. Of course, if you still don't believe me, I have a video here. As he spoke, Lu Yuan waved his hand and directly knocked out Chihiro Disease, who was groaning on the ground after being severely injured. Then, he took out the video camera made from the mirror beast's bones and played the video. Seeing this scene, Bibidon's cheeks immediately blushed and her face became hot. Don't play it, I believe you. You really believe me? Lu Yuan asked. Yes. Bibidon nodded her little head. Then put it away. Lu Yuan smiled and put the video camera away. Bibidon then recovered and the blush on her face faded a lot. Even though there were a lot of memories in her mind, she was still a virgin. She would still be shy. 26 years in the future, she would still be shy sometimes, let alone now. No, you have to destroy that thing. I feel weird if you keep it. Bibidon looked at Lu Yuan and said. I will destroy it, but not now. This is evidence. Without it, Cher won't believe that you're not her mother, Lu Yuan said. Hearing this, Bibidon couldn't help but secretly spit as she recalled the memories in her mind. Her face blushed again. You have guts, you actually dare to fall in love with your own teacher. Bibidon looked at Lu Yuan with a smile that was not a smile. I can't help it. Who asked you to be so charming? Lu Yuan hugged Bibidon's waist with both hands and gently leaned towards her. Bibidon's breathing quickened. With the memories of the past, she naturally knew what Lu Yuan wanted to do. Her little heart was beating fast. Since she inherited the memories, she naturally inherited the feelings. For Lu Yuan, she had no resistance in her heart. But after all, she was not the Bibidon from 26 years in the future. She had never kissed before. She was nervous. Don't be afraid, I will be very gentle, Lu Yuan said softly. He directly moved forward and kissed Bibidon's delicate red lips. The current Bibidon was very inexperienced. After all, she had never kissed before. But as time passed, the techniques in her memory were slowly discovered. She actually became more and more familiar with it. Lu Yuan was naturally happy. He kissed Bibidon hard and felt her beauty. Bibidon was led by Lu Yuan, and the two people were intoxicated together. After a quarter of an hour, Lu Yuan released Bibidon's tender red lips. Still so sweet. Looking at Bibidon in front of him, Lu Yuan smiled softly. Bibidon rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan and punched him hard. Everything was so natural. Lu Yuan chuckled. He held Bibidon's waist and spun a few rounds in the air. Bibidon's beautiful face was full of smiles. Her bell-like laughter resounded in the Pope's palace. After spinning a few rounds, Lu Yuan put Bibidon down. Holding her soft and fragrant body, Lu Yuan smiled softly and said, "The current you is pure, kind, and cute. You are really very different from 26 years in the future. Then, do you like the current me or the future me?" Bibidon asked with a smile. As time passed, her memories became deeper and deeper. She was really getting closer to Lu Yuan. Otherwise, she would not have asked such a question. The current you is cute, pure, kind, and pure. You exude the vitality of youth. 26 years later, you are graceful and magnanimous. You are noble and quiet. You are full of a mature aura. Of course I like all of them, Lu Yuan smiled and said. Sure enough, you are a womanizer. Bibidon pouted. From her memories, she knew that this guy in front of her had several girlfriends. And she was just one of them. 26 years later, Bibidon had matured. She rarely said such things. But the current Bibidon was not so mature. When it was time to be jealous, she would not hesitate. Chapter 10-15. Jealous? Lu Yuan pinched Bibidon's cheeks and asked with a chuckle. What do you think? Bibidon glared at Lu Yuan and punched him with her jade-like hand. She said, It's my bad luck that I fell in love with you, and now I have to share you with several women. There's no other way. Who told you to come later? If you came first, I can guarantee that you would be the only one. Lu Yuan said with a faint smile. Like hell I'll believe you. A leopard can't change its spots. Even if you met me first, you still have to find someone. Bibidon glanced at Lu Yuan with eyes full of disdain. Scumbag. Bibidon spat. Just as she finished speaking, her red lips were once again blocked by Lu Yuan. After a round of exploration, Bibidon was out of breath. Her entire body was sore and powerless. She collapsed in Lu Yuan's embrace without a trace of her temper. It didn't matter if she liked to cause trouble, as long as he kissed her. The current Bibidon was much easier to deal with compared to the future Bibidon, even though she had an additional memory. Lu Yuan held Bibidon's delicate body with one hand and gently stroked her soft purple hair with the other. His eyes were full of love and tenderness. Dong-er. Lu Yuan gently called out and tightly hugged Bibidon's delicate body. Bibidon gently lifted her head and looked at Lu Yuan with her pink eyes. There was a faint surge of emotions in her eyes. She could clearly feel Lu Yuan's strong love for her. Her heart couldn't help but feel a bit warm. She couldn't help but reach out and hug Lu Yuan even tighter. The two hugged for a while before slowly letting go. "Will you still leave?" Bibidon looked at Lu Yuan and softly asked. Her beautiful eyes flickered slightly, with a trace of reluctance. She had just experienced the feeling of being pampered by her lover, and she was a little reluctant. "Yes, I don't belong to this era. Sooner or later, I will have to go back. This time, I came to save you," Lu Yuan said softly. Naturally, he could see Bibidon's reluctance. However, he belonged to the future after 26 years. How could he not go back? Moreover, there were still matters waiting for him to resolve. Hearing this, Bibidon lowered his head slightly, and the light in his eyes dimmed a little. "Don't be sad, I will accompany you for a while before going back." Lu Yuan held Bibidon's beautiful face and said softly. Bibidon replied softly. His eyes lit up again. Bibidon was influenced by her memories, and coupled with Lu Yuan's amazing handsomeness, Lu Yuan became more and more fond of Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan reached out his right hand and gently stroked Bibidon's cheek. His eyes were filled with admiration. So beautiful. Hearing Lu Yuan's praise, Bibidon's beautiful face revealed a smile. Her heart was filled with sweetness. "Let's go, Dong-er. I will take you to see that bastard Chihiro disease." "Oh right, Dong-er, do you want him dead or alive?" Lu Yuan held Bibidon's lily-white hand and walked in the direction of Chihiro disease, who had fainted. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Bibidon fell silent. She looked at Chihiro disease with a trace of disgust in her eyes. After a moment, she sighed softly and said, "Although teacher wanted to act like a beast on me, he didn't succeed in the end. I will spare his life for the sake of our many years of teacher-student relationship. However, from now on, he is no longer my teacher." Bibidon's face was filled with sadness. She had always regarded Chihiro disease as her father. She didn't expect that Chihiro disease would want to do such a thing to her. It really made her feel bitterly disappointed. However, she was still kind and not the ruthless Bibidon. Therefore, she chose to spare Chihiro disease's life. "Since you said to spare his life, then let's spare his life. He is lucky." Lu Yuan squeezed Bibidon's lily-white hand and said softly, "Is that so? Is he really lucky? You probably didn't intend to kill him from the beginning. As for why, for example, Chihiro Snow, huh?" Bibidon looked at Lu Yuan with a faint smile. "Ari, Dong-er, why are you so smart?" Lu Yuan looked helpless. He didn't expect Bibidon to see through his thoughts. He naturally hated Chihiro disease and wanted to kill him. However, he couldn't do so. Anyone could kill Chihiro disease, but he couldn't. Because no matter what, Chihiro disease was Chihiro Snow's father. If he killed Chihiro disease, how could he face Chihiro Snow? Could it be that he should tell Chen Renshue, "Shui, your father was a beast, so I killed him"? Then Chihiro Snow would definitely quarrel with him. Even if Chihiro Snow didn't kill him, it would be difficult for them to be together. Therefore, he wouldn't do such a stupid thing. He just didn't expect Bibidon to see through his thoughts so clearly. "If I wasn't born smart, then wouldn't I be deceived by you, you bad egg?" Bibidon glanced at Lu Yuan and said softly, "Yeah, I can't deceive you, but you were deceived. You actually fell in love with Yu Xiaogang. What's with your eyes?" Speaking of this, Lu Yuan was a little confused. Was Bibidon's intelligence affected by someone? How could she fall in love with Yu Xiaogang? "Are you jealous?" Bibidon moved closer to Lu Yuan and asked with a smile. "TSK, why would I be jealous of him? Does he deserve it?" Lu Yuan said with a look of disdain. "You are still jealous. Bibidon said with a look of certainty. I'm not. You are. I really am not. You definitely are. Don't deny it. I can see that you are jealous. Bibidon said with a card up his sleeve. Okay, don't worry about whether I am jealous or not. Let me ask you, what did you like about him? How could you like such a useless person? Don't tell me that you like his intelligence. With his intelligence, I can only say hehe. If I want to play with him, I can play him to death in a few minutes. Lu Yuan said with a smile. I don't know how I fell in love with him in the first place. I just felt that I couldn't extricate myself from my love. Now that I think about it, he really isn't worthy of my love. He knows less than I do. Bibidon said seriously. Where is he now? Lu Yuan asked. He should be in the library of the Martial Soul Palace. Those are some of the most basic materials. He stays there every day. Bibidon said. Get someone to send him away. Lu Yuan said indifferently. Heh. Hearing these words, Bibidong chuckled and looked at him mischievously. What are you looking at? Lu Yuan glared at Bibidon and looked at Chihiro Disease on the ground. A white light flashed in his right hand, and Chihiro Disease was wrapped up. This was the Qi cleansing divine power, which had a miraculous effect on healing injuries. He had to treat Chihiro Disease first. The gestation of the innate pure yin divine embryo required his help. After all, besides Bibidon, he had another purpose in coming here, which was to help Chihiro Snow be born. Chapter 10:16. Innate pure yin divine fetuses contained extremely strong and pure yin qi, so they needed to be tempered by yang qi in order to give birth to living beings. Ordinary yang qi was definitely not compatible with an innate pure yin divine fetuses. Furthermore, Chihiro Snow's first martial soul was the eight-winged angel. She obviously had the bloodline of an angel. In that case, the origin of this yang qi was inseparable from Chihiro Disease. The blood essence of someone with an angel martial soul definitely contained pure yang qi. What Lu Yuan wanted to do was to extract a portion of Chihiro Disease's blood essence and inject it into the innate pure yin divine fetuses. This way, Chihiro Snow would be born successfully. However, it was obvious that the extraction of blood essence would cause great harm to the Thousand Sun disease. If he was not cured first, he would probably die after the extraction of blood essence with his current injuries. Although this person was disgusting, it wasn't time for him to die yet. At least, he couldn't die now. He couldn't die at Luo Yunyang's hands. Bibidon snickered as she watched Lu Yuan treat Chihiro Snow. Lu Yuan was anxious to drive Yu Xiaogang away. In her opinion, this was a blatant display of jealousy. And you still say you're not jealous. What a proud man, Bibidon muttered as she walked over to Lu Yuan's side. As for Yu Xiaogang, I'll send someone to drive him away as soon as possible. Don't worry, Bibidon said with a smile as she nudged Lu Yuan with her shoulder. Maybe there's no need. Chihiro Disease might have already sent someone to do that. He might have left long ago. Since Chihiro Disease wanted to do that to Bibidon, he might have already made arrangements in this regard. Both sides wouldn't be delayed. Would he believe what Chihiro Disease sent someone to tell him? Bibidon asked. Do you think he would believe it? Or do you think he believes in your relationship? Lu Yuan asked with a smile. Bibidon was silent for a moment as she recalled the memories in her mind. She already believed 90% of what Lu Yuan had said. All right, let's not talk about him. A mere Yu Xiaogang isn't worth our attention. Lu Yuan said indifferently. Yes. Bibidon nodded and shifted his gaze to Chihiro Disease. You're healing him again? Her eyes were wide open, as if to say, you're helping a beast like him heal? I still have things to do, so I can't leave him. Lu Yuan pulled out his hand and pinched Bibidon's cheek as he said with a smile. What's the matter? Bibidon's big eyes revealed a trace of curiosity. Let Cher be born. Lu Yuan chuckled. Bibidon? Are you sure? Bibidon looked at Lu Yuan strangely. How could a man like Chihiro Disease let Chihiro Snow be born? Of course I'm sure. You'll know in a while. Lu Yuan smiled faintly. The healing effect of the clear qi divine power was naturally extraordinary. With its healing effect, Chihiro Disease's injuries were quickly healed and he woke up. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw Lu Yuan. "You, what are you doing? I'm warning you, I'm the Pope of the Martial Soul Palace." He looked at Lu Yuan with fear in his eyes. This guy in front of him seriously injured him in one move. His strength was simply terrifying. What a piece of trash. No wonder you were beaten so badly by Tang Hao. You've really embarrassed the six-winged angel. You have a god-ranked martial soul and soul power advantage, but you can't even defeat a top-ranked martial soul. You're really trash. Looking at Chihiro Disease, Lu Yuan's eyes were full of disdain. It wasn't that he had never seen trash, but it was rare to see someone as trashy as Chihiro Disease. If it were him, not to mention that Tang Hao was only at rank 92 at that time, even if he was at rank 99 and stood in front of Lu Yuan now, Lu Yuan could slap him to death. It was just a mere clear sky hammer. What was it? You said that this Pope can't defeat Tang Hao? He doesn't even have 8 soul rings. He's just digging his own grave when he meets this Pope, Chihiro Disease said with disdain, as if he didn't put Tang Hao in his eyes at all. Just 8 soul rings? Are you looking down on 8 soul rings? Lu Yuan laughed, and the aura on his body surged. The 5-clawed golden dragon king martial soul was directly attached to his body, and 8 soul rings of 6 red, 1 dazzling gold, and 1 ice blue gold appeared. The terrifying aura directly pressed down on Chihiro Disease's body. Suddenly, Chihiro Disease's whole body crawled on the ground, trembling. This soul ring combination, how is this possible? Seeing Lu Yuan's 8 soul rings, Chihiro Disease's eyes were full of horror. Is he still human? Of course it's impossible in the eyes of trash like you. How can trash like you look down on 8 soul rings? Lu Yuan's tone was cold, and his aura rose a little. The pressure in the air seemed to condense into a substance, pressing down on Chihiro Disease's body tightly. What a terrifying pressure. It seems to be much more terrifying than father's. Chihiro Disease's pupils contracted. Under Lu Yuan's aura, he felt as small as an ant on the side of the road. In particular, Lu Yuan's aura surpassed Sendriu's, which made him even more frightened. One had to know that Sendriu was one of the 3 exceptional Douluo in the world. His strength was extremely terrifying, and Lu Yuan actually surpassed him. It was really terrifying. Chihiro Disease was trembling, but Bibidan's eyes were shining. This man is so powerful. I can't be bothered to waste my time with trash like you. Lu Yuan lightly spat out these 2 words. With a thought, invisible spiritual power crazily rushed into Chihiro Disease's mind, directly controlling him. After controlling him, Lu Yuan withdrew his martial soul. What, are you stunned? Do you think your man is so powerful? Lu Yuan looked at Bibidan's shining eyes and laughed softly. Bah, you're so shameless. You're praising yourself. Also, you're not my man. Bibidan said coquettishly. Is that so? Lu Yuan hugged Bibidan's waist with one hand, and the other hand was restless. I'll give you one more chance. Am I your man, Pervert. Bibidan said with a red face. No, no, no. It's only perverted to people you don't know. It's called flirting to your girlfriend. Lu Yuan said seriously. Bibidan rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan. She couldn't deal with such a shameless Lu Yuan even after 26 years, let alone now. Hee. Lu Yuan laughed and directly pecked Bibidan's lips, and said, Dong let's go. Where are we going? Bibidan asked curiously. Find a place to let Cher be born. Lu Yuan said. Oh. Bibidan nodded lightly. Lu Yuan pulled Bibidan and walked towards the entrance of the hall. Chihiro Disease, under Lu Yuan's control, followed behind them. Aren't you afraid of being discovered swaggering out like this? Bibidan asked with some worry. Don't worry, I've already used my spiritual power to radiate out. All the paladins are under my control. Lu Yuan said with a warm smile. Chapter 10:17. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, The corners of Bibidon's mouth twitched. If all the paladins were under his control, then just how high was his spiritual power? It was a little frightening to think about. What realm has your spiritual power reached? It feels a little powerful, Bibidon whispered. I've just reached the god rank, Lu Yuan said softly as he walked. Just reached the god rank? Bibidon looked at Lu Yuan speechlessly. Are you talking like a human? Seeing Bibidon's expression, Lu Yuan smiled and squeezed her little hand, but didn't say anything. Compared to the future Bibidon, the current Bibidon's horizons were still too shallow. Even if he gave her the relevant memories, this kind of breadth of mind wasn't something that could be developed in a short period of time. After finding a secret room, Lu Yuan held Bibidon's hand and walked in. Very few people came here. Don't ask Lu Yuan how he knew there was a secret room here. It was because this was his home. Chihiro Disease followed behind Lu Yuan and Bibidon. His spiritual power was controlled, so he was completely obedient to Lu Yuan's orders. After entering the room, Lu Yuan waved his hand and closed the door. Walking to the bedside, Lu Yuan waved his hand lightly, and an ice lotus platform appeared on the bed. In the middle of the lotus platform was an ice blue sphere about 2 feet in diameter, emitting an extremely pure yin energy. What is this? Bibidon looked at the thing on the bed with wide eyes, a trace of doubt in her eyes. Innate pure yin divine embryo. It contains extremely pure innate pure yin energy. When combined with yang energy, it can give birth to life, Lu Yuan said softly. Bibidon looked at the ice blue sphere on the bed, then looked at Chihiro Disease behind her, and suddenly understood something. So this thing will give birth to Chihiro Snow? Bibidon's face was a bit strange. Yes, Cher is actually a Xiantian life form. In terms of life force, she is much higher than you. Lu Yuan glanced at Bibidon and said indifferently. Bibidon snorted softly. Knowing that his strange tone just now had made Lu Yuan somewhat dissatisfied, he didn't continue the debate. There was a trace of curiosity in Lu Yuan's eyes as he looked at the ice blue sphere. He reached out and touched it gently, only to feel that it was a little cold. He couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. After fusing with the Water Dragon King's soul ring, Hua Yuhao was already able to control ultimate ice-level ice-type abilities at will. His resistance to cold had also exceeded the level of ultimate ice. However, this innate pure yin divine embryo was able to make him feel a little cold. Its quality was extraordinary. Does the so-called ultimate cold attribute refer to the soul? Does it cause the soul to feel cold? Lu Yuan gently stroked his chin. He felt that it was very possible. In terms of external temperature, even absolute zero couldn't make him feel cold. After all, he had a Class 2 godly body. However, if the innate pure yin divine embryo's ultimate cold attribute attacked the soul, then it made sense. After all, while his soul was strong, there was still a gap between it and his physical body. This might have something to do with the fact that he hadn't found the skull. It seems like Cher's second martial soul's potential isn't inferior to her first martial soul. Her first martial soul has evolved to the level of a 12-winged angel, but her second martial soul isn't inferior either. Lu Yuan thought to himself. Hey, why are you in a daze? Bibidon nudged Lu Yuan and said. Nothing. Lu Yuan waved his hand and said. Bibidon looked at him suspiciously. After that, he blinked and said, Didn't you say that you wanted to give birth to Chihiro Snow? Why aren't you starting? Indeed, it's time to start. Lu Yuan nodded. He reached out and grabbed Chihiro Disease. After that, he cut Chihiro Disease's fingertip and forced out a few drops of essence blood. Essence blood was different from ordinary blood. It was the essence of the human body and was extremely precious. Losing too much essence blood could cause one's cultivation to regress or even die suddenly. The most precious blood in the human body was the heart's blood. Generally speaking, heart's blood was vital to one's life. An ordinary titled Douluo only had 2 drops of heart's blood. Using it would cause death. Although it was precious, it couldn't be taken. Next was essence blood. Essence blood was divided into the blood at the tip of the tongue and the blood at the tip of the finger. There wasn't much difference between the two. They both contained essence blood. The blood at the tip of the tongue was slightly better, but it wasn't easy to take it out. Therefore, Lu Yuan could only take the blood at the tip of the finger. After all, Chihiro disease was a man. Lu Yuan felt a little disgusted to take the blood at the tip of his tongue. After a few drops of essence blood were forced out, Chihiro disease's face immediately turned pale. Lu Yuan didn't care as long as he didn't die. As for whether he would be injured or if there were any side effects, it was none of his business. After all, he was just a piece of trash. If it wasn't for Chihiro Snow, Lu Yuan would have killed him a few hundred times over for daring to have ill intentions towards Bibidon. After taking out 13 drops of essence blood, Lu Yuan finally let go of Chihiro disease. At this moment, Chihiro disease couldn't even stand properly. He fell to the ground and fainted. Abuchi, he's not dead, is he? Looking at the 13 drops of essence blood in Lu Yuan's hand, Bibidon's eyes twitched. A human body only had about 20 drops of essence blood in total. Lu Yuan actually took half of it. He won't die. It's just that he lost too much essence blood. His strength will drop a lot. Furthermore, he won't have the chance to advance in this lifetime. He'll be stuck at this level forever. He has to pay a price for daring to have ill intentions towards you. Lu Yuan said softly. At this moment, he somewhat understood why Chihiro disease was beaten up by Tang Hao. After losing too much essence blood, he became weak. Even though he had the realm, he couldn't exert the strength he should have. Coupled with Tang Hao's explosive ring, it seemed normal for him to be beaten up. It turns out that Chihiro disease was beaten up by me. However, he can't blame me. He asked for it. Moreover, if I didn't take his essence blood, Cher wouldn't have been born. So even if it was Cher, she has no reason to blame me. After all, I wasn't the one who beat him up. It was Tang Hao who beat him up. Besides, I also avenged him. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Lu Yuan secretly thought in his heart. Bibidon, on the other hand, had a bright smile on her face. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, she thought that Lu Yuan was helping her vent her anger. What should we do next? Bibidon asked. Just drip the angel's essence blood on it, Lu Yuan said softly. He took a few steps forward and dripped the pure gold angel's essence blood on the innate pure yin divine embryo that was exuding a cold aura. The pure gold angel's essence blood dripped onto the surface of the divine embryo without any resistance. It instantly sank into the divine embryo. As if a chemical reaction had taken place, the innate pure yin divine embryo stopped releasing cold aura as soon as the angel's essence blood entered it. The icy blue divine embryo flickered with a pure gold halo. Chapter 10:18. It really works. Lu Yuan's eyes lit up as he dripped the angel blood essence on it. 1 drop, 2 drops. The more blood essence he dripped, the more intense the golden halo around the innate pure yin divine embryo became. When Lu Yuan dripped the 12th drop, the entire innate pure yin divine embryo lit up. Ice blue and golden light intertwined, exuding a rich energy fluctuation. At the same time, a breath of life slowly emerged from the innate pure yin divine embryo. The fusion of yin and yang, the emergence of life. It seems that 12 drops of blood essence is enough, Lu Yuan murmured in a low voice as he put the remaining drop of blood essence into a jade bottle. Is this a mutation? Bibidon looked at the scene in front of her with a strange expression. This was the first time she had seen such a magical scene. Yes, after the fusion of yin and yang, life has already appeared. After a period of incubation, Cher will be born, Lu Yuan said. How long is a period of incubation? Bibidon asked. Looking at the speed at which life is condensing, it should be about the same as that of an ordinary child. About 10 months, Lu Yuan estimated the intensity of life and said. 10 months. Bibidon rolled her eyes and said, You want to wait for Chihiro Snow to be born before you leave, right? Chihiro Snow needs about 10 months to be born. Doesn't that mean that Lu Yuan will stay here for another 10 months? Thinking of this, Bibidon suddenly became happy. That's for sure. Lu Yuan nodded. Suddenly, a light flashed in his mind, as if he had understood something. He gently hugged Bibidon, leaned his forehead on Bibidon's head, and said softly, "Don't worry, I will accompany you for the next 10 months. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Bibidon was happy in her heart, but her mouth was still tough. "Who wants your company?" Lu Yuan could not understand her duplicity. He kissed her red lips, and the woman quieted down again. Lu Yuan held Bibidon in his arms as he looked at the innate pure yin divine embryo. The intersection of yin and yang, it seems like Cher is fated with the power of yin and yang. When she was born, her angel blood essence and innate pure yin divine embryo were the intersection of yin and yang. When the 6-winged angel evolved into the 8-winged angel, it was also because she consumed the serene snow exquisite Ganoderma and the brilliant gold mysterious sungrass. Finally, her 2 great martial spirits were also born from yin and yang. What a coincidence! Lu Yuan's eyes flickered, and he couldn't help but praise in his heart. It was really a coincidence. However, when he thought about it carefully, it seemed that it wasn't just a coincidence. There was also a certain degree of certainty in it. His gaze shifted to Chihiro Disease's body again. After losing so much blood essence, Chihiro Disease's vitality was greatly damaged. Although there were no external injuries, the internal damage was definitely not small. After all, blood essence was the essence of a person's body. Losing so much in such a short period of time was no small matter. According to Chihiro Disease's treatment, he wouldn't be able to get out of bed for at least 3 months. However, if Chihiro Disease didn't get out of bed for 3 months, it would definitely cause a commotion. Therefore, he still had to be treated. Clear chi scattered down, and Chihiro Disease was more or less cured. Apart from the terrifying after-effects of losing blood essence, there were no other major problems. Get out. From now on, this place will be a restricted area. No one is allowed to enter or leave, Lu Yuan said calmly. Yes. Chihiro Disease replied, and then walked out of the secret room. Douluo, this will be our secret base from now on, Lu Yuan said with a smile. Hearing this, Bibidon glanced at Lu Yuan with a seductive look. Lu Yuan's heart skipped a beat, and he couldn't help but move closer. No, Wu. A new round of the exchange competition had begun. In the Great Stardow Forest, Bibidon had just retrieved her 7th soul ring. With Lu Yuan constantly feeding Neptunia's brain, Bibidon's abilities were rapidly increasing. In just 3 months, she had broken through to become a soul sage. Coincidentally, Lu Yuan had accompanied her to retrieve her 7th soul ring. She was now a rank 72 soul sage. As for whether or not anyone would discover that he and Bibidon were outside, there was no need to worry. With Lu Yuan's current abilities, if he didn't want anyone to discover them, that person would never discover them. Abuchi, I'm tired. I don't want to walk anymore. Bibidon tugged at Lu Yuan's sleeve and pouted as she acted coquettishly. Right now, Bibidon was youthful and cute. She was even more adept at acting coquettishly. After dating her for 3 months, Lu Yuan could deeply feel that Bibidon was completely different from before. Right now, she was very brave, and she was very proactive in her relationships. She often took the initiative to kiss Lu Yuan. Right now, the two of them were in the honeymoon phase of their relationship, and it was the time for them to be intimate. In addition to Lu Yuan's meticulous doting, Bibidon had a blissful smile on her face every day. Come on up, lazy bum. Lu Yuan lowered his body slightly. Bibidon chuckled. She jumped lightly and directly landed on Lu Yuan's shoulder. Lu Yuan supported her with his hands. It had to be said that Bibidon's legs were absolutely superb. Not only were they slender and long, but they were also perfectly shaped. Her skin was also fair, round, and smooth. There was nothing to complain about. They were soft, fragrant, and very elastic. As for why Lu Yuan knew so clearly, you would know if you touched them many times. Bibidon's entire body was lying on Lu Yuan's back. A pair of jade arms wrapped around Lu Yuan's neck. Her small head rested on Lu Yuan's shoulder, and her mouth gently blew into Lu Yuan's ear. The pride in front of her made Lu Yuan feel a strong sense of oppression. Lu Yuan took a deep breath, and only then did he completely suppress his emotions. Little vixen, stop playing. Aren't you afraid that I won't be able to resist? Lu Yuan said. Hee, come on. It's not like I don't want to give it to you. Bibidon giggled. Now that she had strong feelings for Lu Yuan, she didn't mind giving her body to him. Anyway, it wasn't as if she hadn't been together with Lu Yuan in her memory. If it wasn't for the fact that I need to keep your virginity as evidence in the future, I would have eaten you until not even your bones were left. How dare you provoke me? Lu Yuan raised his eyebrows and said indifferently. He, I'm provoking you. Anyway, you won't dare to eat me. You gutless stinky man. Bibidon made a funny face and said coquettishly. Lu Yuan, she actually said that he was gutless? Just you wait. When I return to 26 years later, I will make sure that you can't get out of bed for a week. Lu Yuan said fiercely. I'm so scared. Bibidon pretended to be scared and began to blow into Lu Yuan's ear again. It really made Lu Yuan restless. The corner of his mouth revealed a trace of a wry smile. He really didn't expect that the young Bibidon would have such a lively and mischievous side. However, this kind of character was quite likable. Lu Yuan thought in his heart. Chapter 10:19. Where do you want to go next, little fairy? If there's nowhere else you want to go, then we'll just go back. Lu Yuan carried Bibidon on his back and walked forward as he asked gently. I don't want to go back directly. It wasn't easy for me to come out, so I have to play to my heart's content. You have to keep me company, Bibidon whispered into Lu Yuan's ear. All right, since you've spoken, how can I not do as you say? Lu Yuan said softly. Hehe, I knew you were the best. Bibidon giggled and kissed Lu Yuan's cheek. You. Lu Yuan sighed softly, but the smile on his face grew wider. He carried Bibidon on his back and sped up again. After playing outside with Bibidon for more than a month, Lu Yuan brought her back to the Martial Soul Palace. In a secret room, Lu Yuan and Bibidon were standing, looking at the innate pure yin divine embryo on the bed. The life energy in this divine embryo is getting denser and denser, Bibidon said with raised eyebrows in surprise. Of course. It's been more than 4 months. How could it not be denser? Lu Yuan said calmly. Lu Yuan turned to Bibidon and said, Dong-er, I've played with you. Now it's time for you to cultivate properly. Look at you, you're only level 72. You're no different from a weakling. Only with great power can you dominate everything. Don't be greedy for momentary pleasure, got it? But you're leaving soon. I want to spend more time with you every day. Bibidon hugged Lu Yuan gently, her voice full of attachment and dependence. The time she spent with Lu Yuan was the happiest time of her life. It was the first time she felt the sweetness of love so clearly. She really wanted to spend every moment with Lu Yuan. The future is long. We can always be together in the future, Lu Yuan said. But that's for the future, not the current me. We only have 5 months left. Bibidon raised her head and stared at Lu Yuan. Dong-er. Lu Yuan sighed slightly and reached out to stroke Bibi Dong's long purple hair. He couldn't help but hug her tightly. All right, I'll cultivate with you. You're meditating, so I can communicate with you using my spiritual power. Is that okay? All right then. Bibidon nodded gently when she heard this. Lu Yuan couldn't help but sigh in his heart when he saw this. Bibidon was really clingy now. She couldn't even be bothered to cultivate because she didn't want to be separated from him for even a moment. Come, sit down. The two of them sat down with their legs crossed. Bibidon glanced at Lu Yuan before she closed her eyes and began to meditate. Lu Yuan directly separated a portion of his spiritual power and sent it into Bibidon's sea of consciousness. The rest of his spiritual power was naturally used to maintain his cultivation. He was already at rank 89. Increasing his rank wasn't important to him now. As long as he was willing, he could become a titled Douluo at any time. On the contrary, he was more concerned about the stability of his foundation. I don't need to increase my soul power for now. However, I need to polish it a little before I condense the golden core of soul power. With the golden core of soul power, the quality of my soul power should be increased by a lot, Lu Yuan thought to himself. Among the 3 golden cores, the easiest one to condense was actually the golden core of spiritual power. This was because Lu Yuan's spiritual power had always been very high. Although his spiritual power couldn't be compared to the strength of his physical body, his spiritual power was still at the level of a god. However, the best one to condense was naturally left for last. From the golden core of chi and blood to the golden core of soul power, and now the golden core of spiritual power, Lu Yuan's path before he became a god was actually very smooth. This was the path that he had planned for himself from the beginning. When he became an ultimate Douluo, he wouldn't be afraid even if a god descended upon the world. This was because when that time came, he would be able to kill even a first-tier god. Furthermore, he would be able to torture them to death. The horn for the counterattack is about to sound. There are only a few years left before we attack the god realm, Lu Yuan muttered softly. After that, he focused his mind and began to temper his soul power. Meanwhile, in Bibidan's sea of consciousness, this girl hugged Lu Yuan's spiritual consciousness tightly without letting go and spoke intimately to him. Time passed unknowingly as he cultivated. 5 months passed by quietly. In 5 months, Lu Yuan had already completely condensed the golden core of soul power. Although his soul power was still at rank 89, the quality of his soul power had increased by a lot. Furthermore, his foundation had become extremely stable. All the soul power in his body was completely under his control. Every bit of soul power was under his control. He could control every bit of soul power to the smallest detail. He had finally returned to the realm of soul power control before his strength had skyrocketed. Bibidan's gains weren't small either. In 5 months, with the help of Lu Yuan's pills and Neptunia's brain, her soul power had increased to rank 75. She had increased 3 ranks in 5 months. Not only that, but Lu Yuan also told her how to condense the yin-yang complement soul cores. To an ordinary person, the method to condense the yin-yang complement soul cores might be very precious. However, it was nothing to him. His method to condense the golden core was much better than the yin-yang complement soul cores. However, it was a pity that he was the only one who could use the method to condense the golden core. Even if he passed it to Bibidan, she wouldn't be able to use it. However, the yin-yang complement soul cores were enough for Bibidan. In addition to her innate talent, it wouldn't be difficult for her to become an ultimate Douluo in her 30s. At this moment, Lu Yuan and Bibidan were both staring at the innate pure yin divine embryo on the bed. The icy blue and reddish gold light on the divine embryo seemed to have condensed into substance. There were even faint tremors coming from the divine embryo. It exuded extremely rich life force undulations. It seems like Cher is about to be born. Lu Yuan's eyes flashed as he whispered. Are you about to leave too? Bibidan looked at Lu Yuan with her pink eyes. There was a look of reluctance and longing on her face. Lu Yuan sighed softly. He didn't say anything. He cupped Bibidan's face and kissed her. It was a very long kiss. Bibidan's face turned red. She lay quietly in Lu Yuan's arms. She rested her head on Lu Yuan's chest and enjoyed the warmth of Lu Yuan's embrace. Lu Yuan gently stroked Bibidan's long hair. He was actually very reluctant to part with her. However, he had to leave eventually. He wanted to say something to comfort Bibidan, but he couldn't say anything. The only thing he could do was hug her tightly. He used his last bit of strength to give her warmth and make her feel at ease. Chapter 10:20. The two of them were in a tight embrace, releasing their longing and reluctance to part. Meanwhile, the innate pure yin divine embryo finally underwent its final transformation. The entire divine embryo suddenly erupted with brilliant light. Icy blue and scarlet gold light instantly filled the entire secret chamber, startling the two of them out of their embrace. Lu Yuan's polychoria swept across the room. Bibidan immediately looked over as well. The innate pure yin divine embryo floated into the air, its light growing more and more dazzling. At the same time, A terrifying wave of energy swept out. With a thought, Lu Yuan released his golden dragon domain, intercepting the energy waves. If these energy waves were to spread, they would instantly attract the attention of the others in the martial Soul Palace. Chihiro Snow's identity would be exposed sooner or later, but her birth and Lu Yuan's existence could not be exposed. Abuchi. Bibidon turned to Lu Yuan. Cher is about to be born. Lu Yuan's eyes narrowed as he looked at the divine embryo. Personally witnessing Chihiro Snow's birth was an indescribable experience for him. Chihiro Snow is about to be born? Bibidon blinked her pink eyes. If Chihiro Snow was about to be born, then Lu Yuan would have to leave as well. With this thought, a hint of reluctance flashed through her eyes. She couldn't help but tighten her grip on Lu Yuan. Meanwhile, Lu Yuan was focused on the innate pure yin divine embryo's transformation, so he didn't notice Bibidon's small movements. The energy waves from the innate pure yin divine embryo grew more and more intense. Finally, a cracking sound entered Lu Yuan's ears. Then, the cracking sound became louder and louder. The divine embryo began to shatter. The barrier of icy blue and scarlet gold light had already been reduced to fragments. With a flash of light, the divine embryo's surface completely shattered, revealing a naked infant. She had sparse golden hair, and her skin was as lustrous as jade. Her entire body exuded rich energy waves. Of these two waves of energy, one belonged to the angel bloodline, while the other was an extremely pure yin energy of extremely high quality. Lu Yuan stepped forward and caught the infant in his arms. Light flashed in his hands, and a set of clothes condensed from energy appeared on the infant's body. Lu Yuan held the infant in his right hand gently stroking her cheek. Cher, oh, Cher. I've held you so long ago, Lu Yuan said softly. Suddenly, he could not help but smile. He had always carried Qian Renxue, who was as charming as a goddess. Now, he was carrying her, who had just been born. This feeling was really strange. But it's better to seal the yin energy in Cher's body first. Otherwise, her identity will be easily exposed. After all, in the outside world, Cher is Dong'er's child. In order not to affect future generations, apart from Bibidon and Chihiro Snow's changes, Lu Yuan did his best to maintain the original state. This was because the slightest change now would have a great impact on future generations. If he changed too much, it would lead to unpredictable changes in future generations. If that happened, he wouldn't even have the tears to cry. Lu Yuan casually pointed a finger and sealed the yin energy in Chihiro Snow's body, leaving only the energy fluctuations of the angel bloodline. As long as it is stimulated by high temperatures, this seal will break. At that time, Cher will be able to awaken this yin energy, which just happens to correspond to the 9-step celestial stairs. Lu Yuan smiled faintly. At this moment, he understood that it was his doing that Chihiro Snow's yin energy did not awaken from the beginning. In this way, it all corresponded. Dong'er, it's been hard on you, Lu Yuan said with a smile. How can you think of letting a virgin like me be this girl's mother? Alas, my reputation is completely ruined. Bibidon glared at Lu Yuan and pouted. There's no other way. I'll make it up to you when I go back, Lu Yuan said. And even if I don't say that, according to the development, you still have to be Cher's mother, Lu Yuan muttered in his heart. He looked at Bibidon with deep eyes, as if he could see through Bibidon's body and see the evil and dirty figure. Bibidon did not notice. She said with a smile, You said you'll make it up to me. Well, I said that you can ask for anything. As long as it's not too much, I'll agree to it. Lu Yuan smiled slightly. Then give me the position of the main wife, Bibidon said. Lu Yuan, why are you so fixated on the position of the Empress Dowager? Lu Yuan touched his forehead. He had a headache. Bibidon was determined to go against the Empress Dowager. Mph, I don't want to be the concubine. Last time, in the memory, you said that I came later and you didn't give it to me. Although I was unhappy, I accepted it. But now I realize that I'm the earliest. I'm in love with you now, and Cher will have to wait at least 10 years before she can meet you. According to the time, I'm the first, So I must have the position of the main wife. Bibidon raised her snow-white neck and said with a serious face. Let's talk about this when we go back. Listening to Bibidon's reason, Lu Yuan's mouth twitched. He had to admit that from a certain point of view, Bibidon was really the first. But he also had his difficulties. He had to consider Chihiro Snow's thoughts. It was impossible for him to agree so casually. "Temph, I knew you wouldn't agree so easily. But I'm not afraid. Anyway, I'll remember this request. When you go back, I'll mention it to you," Bibidon said softly. "You." Lu Yuan smiled bitterly. He touched Bibidon's nose and then gently hugged Bibidon. "Is this a child? She looks quite cute. Let's have one in the future, okay?" Bibidon teased Chihiro Snow and smiled softly. "Of course." Lu Yuan smiled softly. The two of them teased each other for a while. Bibidon suddenly said, "Now that Cher has been born, when do you plan to leave?" "Tomorrow." Lu Yuan sighed softly. "Then you'll have to hug me to sleep tonight." Bibidon looked at Lu Yuan. Her beautiful eyes were full of affection, and her reluctance to part was overflowing in her words. "Okay." Lu Yuan replied softly. The next day, Lu Yuan got up from the bed and looked at Bibidon, who was still sleeping soundly. A trace of affection flashed in his eyes. "I've completely modified Chihiro Disease's memory. I've also erased the memories of those paladins. Take care. I'm leaving." Lu Yuan murmured softly. Then, he gently kissed Bibidon's forehead. Glancing at Chihiro Snow, who was wrapped in swaddling clothes, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile. His finger gently tapped her little face. "System, let's go back." Lu Yuan directly connected to the system. Suddenly, a circular door appeared in the secret room. Lu Yuan's body directly disappeared into it. The moment Lu Yuan's figure disappeared, Bibidon's eyes suddenly opened. Her big pink eyes were full of reluctance and longing. Chapter 10:21. In the pavilion in the middle of the lake, Lu Yuan pointed at the last scene with a calm expression. This scene happened to be the scene when Lu Yuan left. "Do you understand now, Cher? Do you believe what I said now?" Lu Yuan glanced at Chihiro Snow and asked indifferently. Chihiro Snow's watery golden eyes stared at the scene. She bit her red lips and remained silent. "If you still don't believe me, I have evidence here," Lu Yuan said softly. He waved his hand and a jade bottle appeared in his hand. He gently opened the cork and a drop of blood essence flew out. This drop of blood essence was reddish gold and exuded a holy and holy aura. "This is the extra blood essence of an angel. It was taken from Chihiro Disease. Cher, you also have the angel martial soul. You should be able to feel the closeness of this drop of blood to you. If you still don't believe what I said just now, this angel's blood essence is the strongest material evidence. Cher, don't be stubborn. Accept this fact." Lu Yuan sighed softly. Chihiro Snow remained silent, but tears rolled down her cheeks unconsciously. She already believed it. Or rather, she had no choice but to believe it when the evidence was irrefutable. Bibidon really wasn't her mother. She really wasn't related to her by blood. Her father, Chihiro Disease, was a bastard who wanted to rape his disciple. This really subverted her understanding of Chihiro Disease. The most important and unacceptable thing was that she really didn't have a mother. She was born from the so-called innate pure yin divine fetus. No wonder she had the yin cold origin. No wonder her talent was so high. Everything turned out to be like this. It was really funny. Chihiro Snow thought self-deprecatingly in her heart. Seeing Chihiro Snow cry, Lu Yuan naturally wouldn't stand still. He stepped forward and hugged Chihiro Snow. Chihiro Snow was like a block of wood. She didn't react at all and let Lu Yuan hug her. Lu Yuan gently stroked Chihiro Snow's golden hair and sighed softly in his heart. This incident was a huge blow to Chihiro Snow. In fact, he was a little surprised when he found out about all this. It was normal for Chihiro Snow to find it difficult to accept. But now that the biggest misunderstanding had been resolved, he had enough time to accompany Chihiro Snow. Time was the best medicine. With his company, Chihiro Snow would be able to walk out of this sooner or later. Bibidon looked at Lu Yuan, who was hugging Chihiro Snow. Her eyes flashed slightly. To be honest, the things that Lu Yuan had shown her really surprised her. So, she had already been in a sweet relationship with Lu Yuan 26 years ago. In other words, she had already found true love 26 years ago. I finally understand why you said that it was a familiar taste when you came back. Bibidon said softly. Hearing this, Lu Yuan's thoughts turned slightly. He instantly remembered that Bibidon was talking about the words he said when he kissed her when he came back 2 days ago. At that time, he had just come back and kissed Bibidon. He couldn't help but think of her 26 years ago. Although they were both her, their temperaments and personalities were very different. However, the taste of her lips was the same. That was why he said that it was a familiar taste. In his heart, he still missed Bibidon 26 years ago. That was the sweetest relationship he had ever had. It was even sweeter than his and Chihiro Snow's first love. In fact, Bibidon 26 years ago was really very suitable to be a lover. Of course, she was also very suitable to be a wife. She was very clingy, very sensible, and had a big heart. Chihiro Snow was very good in other aspects, but her personality was slightly arrogant. She rarely took the initiative, so she might be a little lacking in comparison. But in general, whether it was Bibidon or Chihiro Snow, he loved them both. Both of them had their own strengths. He was a person who loved everyone. After all, it was impossible for a person who didn't love everyone to have 6 wives. Perhaps at the beginning, he thought that it was pure love, but when he accepted Hulena, it was inevitable that he would start a harem. Once this kind of thing was started, it was very difficult to stop. He didn't believe it before, but now he believed it very much. After Bibidon sighed, her expression suddenly became dignified. She looked at Lu Yuan and asked in a slightly serious tone, Abuchi, there is one thing I don't understand. Lu Yuan's hand that was stroking Chihiro Snow's hair paused and said softly, what is it? What I want to know is that although you modified Chihiro Disease's memory 26 years ago and erased the memories of all the paladins, you have never touched my memory. So why don't I remember you at all? I don't even remember anything related to you 26 years ago. Bibidon said in a serious tone. Hearing Bibidon's words, Lu Yuan's eyes flashed with a sharp light. He helped Chihiro Snow sit down on the stone bench and looked at Bibidon and said, you have to ask the guy hiding in your body. What do you mean? Bibidon frowned as if she thought of something and asked, you mean Rakshasa? Yes. Lu Yuan nodded and said, Rakshasa is the god of evil. She is best at resentment. Her inheritance requires people with extreme resentment to inherit. The crazier and more twisted the personality is, the more suitable it is for Rakshasa. Our love 26 years ago was so sweet, and you had a happy smile on your face every day. Think about it, you are the inheritor chosen by Rakshasa. Would she let you be happy forever? You mean? Bibidon's beautiful eyes widened, and there were flames burning in her eyes. With her intelligence, how could she not guess what was going to happen after hearing Lu Yuan's words? She was furious. Well, if I'm not wrong, she should have sealed all your memories about me, and then wove an illusion for you. She injected a lot of false memories into you, such as Chihiro disease tainting you. She wanted you to walk on the path of resentment, so that your personality would become twisted and crazy, so that you could inherit the Rakshasa godhood. Lu Yuan said faintly. Creak. Hearing this, Bibidon clenched her fists and gritted her teeth. She did not expect that the pain she had suffered for more than 20 years was a false memory made by Rakshasa deity. At this moment, she really hated Rakshasa deity to the bone. Qian Runxue, who was crying beside him, lifted her head and looked at Bibi Dong. This woman whom she originally hated was also a pitiful person. She had been toyed with by a fake memory for more than 20 years. It was really a little sad. Chapter 1022. Why did Chihiro Snow hate Bibidon so much? It was because Bibidon didn't like her since she was young. She even hated her. She couldn't get motherly love for a long time. In addition, Bibidon was with Lu Yuan and stole her man. Under these two circumstances, Chihiro Snow hated Bibidon so much that her teeth itched. Now that the truth was out, Bibidon wasn't Chihiro Snow's mother at all. The biggest source of hatred, which was her mother's identity, no longer existed. Chihiro Snow's hatred for Bibidon suddenly became like a castle in the air that was on the verge of collapse. After all, Bibidon didn't like her and hated her. Under the circumstances where there was no mother-daughter relationship, it didn't mean anything. After all, she wasn't Bibidon's daughter. Why should Bibidon treat her well? What's more, what Chihiro Disease wanted to do to Bibidon was also known by Chihiro Snow now. She could probably understand why Bibidon didn't like her. The resentment in her heart had already mostly disappeared. As for stealing Lu Yuan, without the identity of a mother, Bibidon was no different from Hulena and Zhu Zhuqing. Since she could accept Hulena and the others, she naturally wouldn't care too much about Bibidon. Therefore, under such circumstances, Chihiro Snow's hatred for Bibidon actually decreased a lot. Of course, it was impossible for her to like him. Even if she didn't hate him in this life, it was extremely difficult for her to have a good relationship with Bibidon. This was something that even Lu Yuan couldn't do. After all, it was difficult to change one's prejudice and perception of a person. Looking at Bibidon gritting her teeth and clenching her pink fists, Lu Yuan couldn't help but take 2 steps forward and gently grab her hand. "Don't be angry. It's not worth it to hurt your body," Lu Yuan said gently. Bibidon nodded gently and slowly suppressed the anger in her heart. "Abuchi, I still have a question." Bibidon looked into Lu Yuan's eyes and said, "Go ahead. I'll tell you everything I know," Lu Yuan said with a smile. "Since the Rakshasa deity saw that I was so happy back then, she directly sealed my memories and even instilled false memories in me in order to twist my personality, make me crazy, and fall into a state of extreme resentment. Then why didn't she change my memories when I was with you and my mood was cheerful and no longer twisted and resentful?" Bibi Dong asked curiously. Chihiro Snow also cast his gaze at Lu Yuan. "It's very simple. Because she didn't dare," Lu Yuan said with a faint smile. "What do you mean?" Bibidon said with a slight frown. "Because she was afraid of being discovered by me." Lu Yuan's double pupils flickered as he said, "In fact, when I was with you 26 years ago, I had already discovered the whereabouts of the Rakshasa god. However, she hid too well and I couldn't catch her, so I never told you. But now that you have accepted the Rakshasa god's inheritance and inherited the 7th test, your body has been deeply imprinted with her mark. Her divine sense phantom is hidden in your body and can't be hidden at all. My clear chi divine power is the nemesis of all evil in the world. It is even more so for the Rakshasa god. So when I was with you, even if your mood was getting better and happier, she didn't dare to change your memory because once you changed, I would be able to detect it immediately and then directly use my clear chi divine power to disintegrate everything. So, do you understand?" Lu Yuan asked with a chuckle. "Understood." Bibidon nodded and said, "Since you understand, then Dong-er, if I want to help you get rid of the Rakshasa god's inheritance now, you won't refuse, right?" Lu Yuan asked. "No, you can get rid of it. This Rakshasa god's inheritance has caused me so much trouble. I can't wait to skin the Rakshasa god and break her bones to vent the hatred in my heart," Bibidon said softly with a strong hatred in his tone. If the Rakshasa god hadn't caused trouble, she could have firmly remembered the sweet love between Lu Yuan and her, and then comfortably become the pope of the martial soul palace. Finally, she would have taken Lu Yuan as her disciple, cultivated him, and finally had a vigorous relationship. Wouldn't that be perfect? Unfortunately, all of this was ruined by the Rakshasa god, causing her to spend almost every day in resentment. Every day, she remembered the unbearable humiliation, and even every day, she was still thinking about that useless thing. It made her heart full of holes, so how could she not hate it? If it wasn't for the arrival of Lu Yuan, she was afraid that she would have fallen like this for the rest of her life until she was beyond redemption. Thinking of this, How could Bibidon still be willing to accept this Rakshasa god's inheritance? She couldn't wait for this Rakshasa god's inheritance to completely disappear from the world. Listening to Bibidon's words, Lu Yuan nodded in satisfaction. Bibidon finally agreed to take away the Rakshasa god's inheritance. He had been waiting for this day for a long time. With a thought, a rich white light emerged from Lu Yuan's body, and then completely enveloped Bibidon. It was different from the clear qi divine power used to heal injuries in the past. This time, the clear qi divine power was full of aggression, and directly entered the deepest part of Bibidon's body, cleansing all the filth. "Get out of here!" Lu Yuan shouted angrily, and the white light on his body became even more intense. This time, he used all the clear qi divine power he could use. It was equivalent to half of the clear qi divine power of the clear qi divine seed. This power was so huge that it had no effect on Bibidon, but to the Rakshasa god's inheritance, it was absolutely poisonous and completely unstoppable. A dark purple sickle shadow appeared on Bibidon's forehead, and then directly collapsed. A shadow was directly forced out of Bibidon's body by the clear qi divine power. This was a woman wearing a pale green armor with a ferocious face. If one had to say what impression she gave people, it would be that she was ugly. The Rakshasa god was the ugliest among the gods. The extreme resentment caused her face to be distorted beyond recognition. It was true that the appearance was born from the heart. Even the 7 original sin gods, the so-called gods of desire, their hearts were absolutely not as filthy as the Rakshasa god, because Rakshasa was originally a synonym for filth and depravity. If Bibidon became the Rakshasa god, her appearance would definitely not be good-looking. As soon as the Rakshasa god's shadow was forced out, she stared at Lu Yuan with resentment. "Ignorant mortal, you dare to offend the noble Rakshasa. I sentence you to death. You! A mere shadow dares to attack here?" Lu Yuan grabbed Bibidon's waist, and a dim light flashed in his hand. An endless murderous aura was exposed, and the pitch-black god-slaying spear suddenly appeared in his hand. "Take care, I won't send you off," Lu Yuan said lightly, and the god-slaying spear in his hand directly pierced out. The space suddenly froze, and the god-slaying spear directly pierced through the Rakshasa god's shadow in horror, shattering her into light spots that filled the sky. Chapter 1023. With Lu Yuan's current strength, under the circumstances of using the god-killing spear, he could basically kill a first-grade god with one shot. The usual calculation of combat power ignored the god-killing spear's conventional maximum combat power. If the god-killing spear was included, the combat power would be raised even higher. After all, the god-killing spear was a completely unreasonable killing weapon. The number 1 weapon of the heavenly axiom, even if it was just a martial soul and not the original, it was no joke. If the real Rakshasa deity was here, Lu Yuan would still give her some face. But a mere phantom was nothing. He could kill it with a wave of his hand. Using the god-killing spear was only because it was more efficient. The feeling of killing in one shot was very satisfying. The Rakshasa phantom was destroyed just like that. Seeing that Lu Yuan easily killed the Rakshasa deity phantom with one shot, Bibidon couldn't help but open her little mouth and ask in surprise. "Otherwise? This is the god-killing spear. Do you think the name god-killing is just a joke?" Lu Yuan said with a faint smile. "The god-killing spear, this thing would kill a few gods in the future war of the divine world. Otherwise, it would be unworthy of its name. If it didn't kill gods, could it still be called the god-killing spear? Of course not. Therefore, gods still had to be killed, such as the Rakshasa deity just now. Douluo, today you killed the Rakshasa phantom. In the future, I will definitely kill the Rakshasa deity for you. The pain she inflicted on you can only be washed away with her blood," Lu Yuan said softly, his tone overflowing with murderous intent. Bibidon grunted. She was a little touched. Her body moved slightly, and she gently leaned into Lu Yuan's embrace. Lu Yuan's heart moved, and he put away the god-killing spear. He hugged Bibidon with both hands, and his chin gently rested on Bibidon's forehead. "Douluo, the Rakshasa phantom has been destroyed." Then, Your memory should have recovered, right? Lu Yuan asked softly. I've completely recovered. I remember everything that happened back then. Abuchi, thank you for giving me such a sweet relationship. Bibidon leaned into Lu Yuan's embrace and said softly. What are you thanking me for? You also gave me a sweet relationship and let me see a different Bibidon. Lu Yuan gently stroked Bibidon's back and laughed softly. Then, do you like the Bibidon from back then, or do you like the current me? Bibidon rolled his eyes and asked with a smile. Isn't this all your fault? Lu Yuan's mouth twitched as he said helplessly. You asked me this question 26 years ago, and now you're asking me the same question again. How do you think I should answer you? Hee hee. Seeing the corner of Lu Yuan's mouth twitching, Bibidon chuckled. A bright smile bloomed on her pretty face, making her look exceptionally beautiful and moving. It seems that your personality has changed a little after you recovered your memory. Lu Yuan raised his eyebrows slightly. This Bibidon gave off a mischievous feeling, very much like the Bibidon from back then. Then, do you like it? Bibidon asked. Of course. I like it very much. Lu Yuan smiled softly and hugged Bibidon even tighter. Bibidon laid in Lu Yuan's embrace, gazed into his eyes, and said, Now, I finally understand why your position in my heart rose so quickly. In just a short time, you've surpassed Nana. Later, it was even easier for me to fall in love with you. I originally thought that I wasn't persistent enough in love with you. In fact, it wasn't. It was because I loved you deeply. Even if my memory was sealed, I was still unconsciously attracted to you. Because my heart has always been with you, it was difficult for me to suppress my feelings. Now, I finally understand everything. Hearing Bibidon's words, Lu Yuan's lips curled up slightly. He gently pinched Bibidon's face and said, Do you think it's easy for you to fall in love with me? Have you forgotten how much effort I spent to persuade you? For others, it might be difficult, but for me, it's really easy. After all, you're a person who won't regret once you've decided, right? Lu Yuan said with a smile. Yes. Bibidon smiled softly, and her smile was exceptionally bright. Seeing Bibidon's bright smile, Lu Yuan couldn't help but feel moved in his heart. He kissed Bibidon deeply. Ian, so sweet. Didn't you go to send Cher off? Why do you look so listless? Looking at Lu Yuan's appearance, Bibidon couldn't help but ask curiously. Don't mention it. After I explained everything to Cher, Grandpa Gold Crocodile and the others finally stopped objecting to our matter. Lu Yuan said lightly. Isn't that a good thing? But why do you look so unhappy? Bibidon asked with some doubts. After Grandpa Gold Crocodile agreed, he pulled me aside and scolded me. Didn't I talk back to them because of you last time? Grandpa Gold Crocodile was unhappy, so he scolded me every time he saw me. He only let me go when he was exhausted. Lu Yuan said with a helpless expression. He really dared to scold you. Isn't he afraid that you'll be angry? Bibidon asked with a smile. I don't get angry so easily. How can I lose my temper so easily when you're not involved? Besides, Grandpa Gold Crocodile is an elder. Scolding him won't hurt him, so let it be. But after this scolding, the previous conflicts have eased. Lu Yuan said softly. Then you think it's worth it to be scolded? Bibidon asked with a chuckle. Is it worth it to be scolded? I'm not asking for it. But in the end, it's a good thing that the conflict can be resolved. Lu Yuan sat down in the pavilion, picked up Bibidon, and placed him on his lap. Bibi Dong, on the other hand, wrapped his arms around Lu Yuan's neck in a very natural manner. They had done this frequently 26 years ago. Dong, I want to ask you something. Did you kill Chihiro disease? Lu Yuan pinched Bibidon's face and asked softly. Why are you suddenly asking this? Oh, by the way, are you worried that Cher and I will fight because of Chihiro disease? Listening to Lu Yuan's question, Bibidon was stunned at first, then quickly recovered. That's right. No matter how disgusting Chen Xuanji is, he's still Shue'er's father. If you're the one who killed him, it'll be troublesome. But don't worry, even if you killed him, I'll protect you. Lu Yuan said. Originally, In the memory given to me by Rakshasa, I killed Chihiro disease, but in fact, I didn't kill Chihiro disease. Not long after he came back, he died, but his angel divine soul was devoured by me. It was because of this that I was able to enter the Rakshasa secret realm. However, Sendryu always believed that I killed Chihiro disease. In the past, he didn't pursue this matter because I was Cher's mother, but now that I'm no longer Cher's mother, I'm afraid he, speaking of this, Bibidon couldn't help but pause. Chapter 1024. You're worried that now that he knows you're not Cher's biological mother, he'll tell Cher that you're the one who killed Chihiro disease? Lu Yuan continued the conversation. Yes. Bibidon nodded and said. Actually, you don't have to worry. It's fine even if he tells you. As long as you're not the one who killed him, I'll be able to stop Cher even if she comes looking for trouble. Lu Yuan touched Bibidon's nose and said, according to you, Chihiro disease died not long after he was hammered by Tang Hao. In other words, the one who killed Chihiro disease was actually Tang Hao? Yes. Bibidon said. Then it's fine. As long as it's Tang Hao who killed him, it won't be your fault. Speaking of which, Chihiro disease's death in Tang Hao's hands has something to do with the fact that I took 13 drops of his essence blood to create Cher. If that's the case, Cher and I are both responsible. How can Cher find me and herself to settle the score? So, it's fine. Lu Yuan said softly. It's good that you're fine. To be honest, I'm not afraid of what Cher and Sendryu will think because I don't care. I'm just worried that you'll be stuck in the middle. Bibidon said softly as she caressed Lu Yuan's face. It's not difficult for me. I'll always be on your side in this matter. I've said before that even if you really killed Chihiro disease, I'll protect you. This guy was never a good person. So what if he's dead? I don't want him to stay in this world and disgust people. If he wasn't Cher's father, I would have killed him 26 years ago. Why would I leave him alive? So, you don't have to worry, Lu Yuan said softly. Hearing this, Bibidon's heart warmed slightly. She slowly moved closer to Lu Yuan, her pink eyes gently blinking. Abuchi. Bibidon called out softly, her eyes full of charm. Seeing Bibidon like this, Lu Yuan's thoughts instantly went back to 26 years ago. At that time, because she knew that Lu Yuan couldn't touch her and wanted to keep her virginity, Bibidon often tempted him like this, wanting to see him become restless. The current Bibidon gave him the feeling that he had returned to the past. Lu Yuan's eyes suddenly became fiery. 10 months. He had stayed there for 10 months 26 years ago. He had returned for 2 days, and his heart was filled with thoughts that he hadn't let go of. Now, all the knots in his heart had been untied, and he had completely gotten rid of all the shackles. This time, he was really restless. Little vixen, you still dare to tempt me. I said that I would make you unable to get out of bed for a week. Today, I'll show you my power. Lu Yuan stared intently into Bibidon's eyes and pretended to be fierce as he spoke. I'm so scared. Bibidon threw a coquettish glance at Lu Yuan, her eyes full of temptation. After recovering her memories, Bibidon's personality had changed a little. She had become much more proactive. Otherwise, she would never have done such a thing in the past. You still dare to provoke me? Lu Yuan raised his eyebrows slightly. He directly carried Bibidon by her waist and walked towards a room not far away. Kicking the door open, Lu Yuan walked in with Bibidon in his arms. Lu Yuan's aura fluctuated, and the room door automatically closed. Lu Yuan threw Bibidon on the bed and looked at her with a fiery gaze. Little vixen, I'm coming. With that, he directly pounced on her. The hibiscus tent was warm, and the two of them spent a wonderful night together. The two of them lingered for a full day and 2 nights. It wasn't until the morning of the 3rd day that Lu Yuan woke up. Bibidon had long been like a pile of mud. Her entire body was soft, and she couldn't use any strength. How is it? Are you convinced? Do you still dare to provoke me? Lu Yuan lifted Bibidon's chin and laughed softly. Bibidon rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan and ignored him. She was too tired. She just wanted to have a good rest. Seeing that Bibidon didn't answer, Lu Yuan didn't mind. He used the clear qi to help her recover, then kissed her forehead and said softly, "Have a good sleep. I'll go prepare breakfast for you." Bibidon blinked her beautiful eyes, indicating that she understood. Lu Yuan smiled and kissed Bibidon's forehead again. He covered Bibidon with a blanket and turned to leave the room. Bibidon stared blankly at the top of the room. Suddenly, she revealed a smile, and her eyes were filled with happiness. "Abuchi," she whispered softly, her tone was filled with strong and passionate love. On the other side, Lu Yuan was preparing breakfast. Bibidon liked porridge, so Lu Yuan was cooking porridge. Cooking porridge was a technical job, and it also tested one's patience. As Lu Yuan cooked the porridge, he used his spiritual power to assess the things that he had. He hadn't fused with the Dragon King of Light's left leg bone yet. The Neptunia pearl was still in his astral ring, and there were also many precious dragon brains. These were also treasures. Back then, Bibidon's soul power had increased so quickly because she had eaten them. "I can let Cher, Zhu Qing, and the others eat some of these dragon brains. They can increase their soul power and nourish their bodies." Lu Yuan looked at the many dragon brains in his astral ring and said softly. He scanned his spiritual power again, and a golden card attracted Lu Yuan's attention. "I forgot about this." As he looked at the titled Douluo draw card in his hand, Lu Yuan's eyes flashed. In the past, this thing was very precious to him. However, it was nothing to him now. His fighting strength had reached the god realm, and he didn't value this thing as much as before. Furthermore, he had so many things to do, so he had forgotten about it. "Since I've seen you, I'll use it. I hope I can draw someone interesting." Lu Yuan laughed softly. He didn't really care about the titled Douluo's class. It would be better if he could draw someone interesting. System: use the titled Douluo draw card. Lu Yuan instructed. Ding. The titled Douluo draw card has begun. Ding. Congratulations on obtaining the death god Douluo, Yi Shishure. Who did you say I drew? After hearing the system's words, Lu Yuan was shocked. The death god Douluo, Yi Shishure? He wanted to draw someone he couldn't draw in the past. Now that he didn't care about her anymore, he actually drew her. Just as Lu Yuan finished speaking, the space in front of him started to tremble. A woman in a blood-red robe appeared in front of him. Her face was as white as jade, and her lips were small. Her eyebrows were picturesque. She was indeed a rare beauty. No wonder Long Xiaoyaro and Mu Yen were so attracted to her. "Greetings, my lord." Yi Shishure bowed towards Lu Yuan. "Elder Yi, you don't have to be so polite." Lu Yuan extended his hand and helped Yi Shishure up. Chapter 1025. What a heavy power of resentment. Lu Yuan furrowed his brows as he sensed the power of resentment coming from Yi Shishure's body. He possessed clear energy and godly power, and he hated this kind of power of resentment the most. Therefore, he was instinctively disgusted by evil soul masters. He had encountered many evil soul masters before, but the power of resentment coming from Yi Shishure's body was far greater than that of all of them combined. Therefore, he couldn't help but feel conflicted. This wasn't because he was biased against Yi Shishure. It was an instinctive reaction. "Master." Yi Shishure was a little nervous when she saw Lu Yuan furrowing his brows. She was an ultimate Douluo, but she was absolutely loyal to Lu Yuan. Therefore, she thought that Lu Yuan had something against her when she saw Lu Yuan's reaction. She immediately wanted to kneel down again. "It's all right. Elder Yi, please stand up." Lu Yuan pulled Yi Shishure back and said softly. "Yes, master." Yi Shishure straightened her body. Lu Yuan took 2 steps back and looked at Yi Shishure. He said, "I hope that Elder Yi won't kill people for no reason in the future, and don't create the death god. Do you understand?" "Yes, master," Yi Shishure answered. "Well, you can stay by my side for now. After a while, I have something to arrange for you. Also, change out of this bloody red shirt you're wearing. It's scary to look at," Lu Yuan said faintly. "Master, this is the style of my clothes. I don't have any other style." Yi Shishure lowered her head and whispered. The corner of Lu Yuan's mouth twitched. After that, he waved his hand and said, I'll get someone to prepare the clothes for you. Later, I'll help you remove the power of resentment from your body. Anyone who sees you now will think that you're an evil soul master. The Martial Soul Palace was an organization that specialized in suppressing evil soul masters. Yi Shishure's current appearance was very detrimental to the Martial Soul Palace's image. Therefore, Lu Yuan had to change her image first. Senior Yi, I remember that your second martial soul is the Radiant Phoenix, right? Lu Yuan asked indifferently. Yes, Master. Yi Shishure replied. That's good. Use this martial soul when you're by my side in the future. Put away your first martial soul. Evil soul masters are the enemy of the continent right now, and I hate them the most. I hope that Senior Yi won't do anything similar to evil soul masters in the future. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless. Lu Yuan stared at Yi Shishure sternly. Others might not know Yi Shishure's identity, but he was very clear about it. She was the strongest evil soul master in Douluo, and a class 10 soul engineer. She had killed many people in order to create the death god. She had even enslaved the spirits of the dead. Her methods were extremely cruel. This woman's life was indeed very pitiful, but at the same time, she also had her own detestable aspects. Therefore, even if it was summoned now, it still needed to be warned. Don't worry, Master. I understand. Yi Shishure's beautiful eyes trembled as she spoke with a sincere look on her face. She realized that Lu Yuan seemed to hate evil soul masters very much. Furthermore, there was a frightening strength in his body that could suppress evil power. He was definitely an evil soul master's nightmare. If not for the fact that she possessed the Radiant Phoenix and the power of light, she wouldn't have dared to be so close to Lu Yuan. It's good that you understand. Now, you can just wait at one side. I'll send a message to ask Elder Long to rush over so that the two of you can reunite and make up for your past regrets. Lu Yuan stirred the porridge in the pot with one hand as he spoke plainly. Thank you, Master. Yi Shishure revealed a look of joy on her face. If there was someone that she missed the most in her heart, it would undoubtedly be Long Xiaoyao. Right now, Lu Yuan said that he would reunite with Long Xiaoyao. To her, this was like a blessing from the heavens. You don't have to thank me. Elder Long has been with me for so long. Even if he didn't contribute much, he has worked hard for me. Allowing the two of you to reunite is my way of consoling him. Oh yes, your descendant, Uncle Yang Shaozhe, is also with me. However, he can't leave the Dragon King Palace. Therefore, you should meet Elder Long first. As for Uncle Yang, you'll have plenty of chances to meet him in the future. Lu Yuan said. Everything is up to you, Master. Yi Shishure clasped her fists and said. Lu Yuan nodded gently. He looked at the pot and didn't say anything else. 4 hours later, Lu Yuan finished cooking the porridge and prepared some other breakfast. He placed it on a plate and carried it towards Bibidon's room. Bibidon was lying on the bed. His snow-white arms were exposed, and his pink eyes were wide open. He was in a daze. Didn't I ask you to sleep? Why are your eyes so wide open? Lu Yuan placed the plate down and looked at Bibidon as he spoke. I can't sleep. I don't want to sleep. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Bibidon glanced at Lu Yuan and said softly, If you can't sleep, get up and eat some porridge. You haven't eaten for 2 days. Lu Yuan said. It's all your fault. Bibidon rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan and snapped. As she spoke, she started to move and prepared to get up. Lu Yuan smiled and didn't argue. He asked, Are you going to eat, or do you want me to feed you? Of course you're going to feed me. I don't have the energy to eat, Bibidon said as a matter of fact. As he looked at Bibidon's rosy and glowing face, Lu Yuan couldn't be bothered to expose her. He took 2 steps forward and carried her out of the bed. You need to put on your clothes. Didn't you have no energy? How about I help you? Looking at Bibidon's naked body, Lu Yuan asked with a smirk. I knew a pervert like you wouldn't have any good ideas. If you want to take advantage of me, just say it. Don't beat around the bush. Bibidon glared at Lu Yuan. She opened her arms and said coquettishly, "Why aren't you helping this Pope change clothes?" "Okay, this little one obeys." Lu Yuan chuckled and picked up the clothes to help Bibidon put them on. As for taking advantage of her, he definitely took advantage of her. As expected of my wife. This figure is so good. After Lu Yuan helped Bibidon put on her clothes, he looked at Bibidon's curvy body. Her waist was slender, and her legs were long and slender. He couldn't help but praise her from the bottom of his heart. Bibidon's figure was really perfect. It wasn't any worse than Gu Yuana's. It really made Lu Yuan's heart itch unbearably. The anger that had already subsided had a tendency to come out again. However, he quickly suppressed this anger. Bibidon wasn't Gu Yuana. Her body was much more delicate. He couldn't go too far. She still needed to be carefully taken care of. Holding Bibidon's hand, he sat down on the chair. Lu Yuan picked up the bowl, scooped up a small spoonful of porridge with a spoon, blew on it, and then sent it to Bibidon's lips. Chapter 10:26. Bibidon gently opened her red lips and ate the porridge gently. "How is it?" Lu Yuan asked. "It tastes good," Bibidon said softly. "Then eat more." Lu Yuan scooped up another spoonful of porridge, blew on it gently, and handed it over. Bibidon ate it again. She gently stroked the long hair on her forehead and asked softly, "What are your plans next?" "I still have plans. I'm going to go to the massacre city first. When I come back, I'll go to the sea god island. Finally, I'll take Share to the extreme north to find my second martial soul." Lu Yuan's hands did not stop moving as he spoke softly. "The massacre city? What are you going to do there?" Bibidon looked at Lu Yuan with some confusion. Then, she ate the porridge that Lu Yuan brought to her mouth. "I'm going to the massacre city to kill Tang Chen, and then get the inheritance of the Azura god," Lu Yuan said casually. "Tang Chen is in the massacre city?" Bibidon widened her eyes and asked in disbelief. "Of course. Do you still remember the massacre king?" Lu Yuan asked. "Of course. When I went to the massacre city to train, he was there," Bibidon said. "The massacre king is Tang Chen. He was parasitized by the scarlet nine-headed bat king during the Azura 8th trial. He lost his nature and gradually degenerated into the massacre king that we saw. Speaking of which, the reason why Tang Chen lost his nature is related to the Rakshasa deity. Back then, in order to prevent her successor from meeting the Azura god, the Rakshasa deity took the initiative to welcome the Azura inheritance. Therefore, the Azura inheritance was not pure. There was the interference of the Rakshasa deity in it. It was also because of this that Tang Chen was careless and was tricked by the Rakshasa deity. He completely fell into it. Otherwise, Tang Chen would have become a god now. Lu Yuan said softly. "Hiss." Hearing this, Bibidon took a deep breath. If Tang Chen really became a god, it would be a disaster for the martial soul palace. This Rakshasa god has finally done something good. Otherwise, if Tang Chen were to become a god, our martial soul palace would really be in danger, Bibidon said with some relief. "Are you scared?" Lu Yuan laughed. "Aren't you afraid?" Bibidon asked. "Of course I'm not afraid. Even if Tang Chen becomes a god, I'll still kill him. A god who has just inherited the position of a god and hasn't been baptized by the divine realm can't exert his strength at all. Even if Tang Chen has inherited the Azura god, on the Douluo continent, he can only unleash the power of a second-tier god at most. If I want to kill him, it will be as easy as flipping my hand. The god-slaying spear can finish him off in one strike, so why should I be afraid?" Lu Yuan said with a smile. "Pervert." Hearing Lu Yuan's words, the corners of Bibidon's mouth couldn't help but twitch. After a moment of silence, her red lips opened slightly and spat out 2 words faintly. "Thank you for the compliment," Lu Yuan said with a smile. The corners of Bibidon's eyes twitched, and she didn't say anything else. She had no way to deal with such a thick-skinned Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan continued to feed Bibidon porridge, one feeding the other. Soon, The breakfast prepared by Lu Yuan was finished. Lu Yuan took out a handkerchief to wipe Bibidon's mouth and chuckled softly, "It seems that you have a good appetite." Bibidon glanced at Lu Yuan, leaned gently in his arms, and called out, "Abuchi." Bibidon's soft voice carried a hint of coquettishness, which made Lu Yuan's bones go numb. "What's the matter?" Lu Yuan asked with a smile as he stroked her long purple hair. "Stay with me for 2 more days before you go to the city of slaughter, okay?" Bibidon said softly, her tone carrying a strong sense of attachment. Of course, Lu Yuan naturally wouldn't refuse such a request. He looked at Bibidon, his eyes full of affection. Now that Bibidon had recovered her memories, she had become more and more clingy. Of course, he liked this behavior very much. After the original innocent, cute, kind, and mischievous Bibidon and the graceful, calm, and aloof His Holiness the Pope became one, she became even more charming and lovable. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Bibidon smiled softly and quietly lay in Lu Yuan's arms, enjoying this rare quiet time. After about an hour, Lu Yuan held Bibidon's hand and walked out of the room. As for the bowls and chopsticks, the maidservants would wash them. He could cook, but he didn't have to wash the bowls himself. Lu Yuan and Bibidon walked all the way to the pavilion in the middle of the lake and sat down. They sipped their tea and admired the scenery. Through the transparent layer of ice on the surface of the lake, one could clearly see the body of the sea god dragon. It was a rare sight. "Tell me, who is she?" Bibidon placed his teacup down and looked at Yi Shishirei, who was standing outside the pavilion. He squinted his eyes and asked. This woman wasn't weak, and she was also very beautiful. Bibidon was overthinking things. Lu Yuan was speechless as he looked at Bibidon. After interacting with him for so long, how could he not know what Bibidon was thinking? She is Yi Shishirei, a rank 99 ultimate Douluo. She is also known as the Death God. Lu Yuan said. The Death God Douluo, Yi Shishirei. Another ultimate Douluo. Little rascal, you have good taste. The women you find aren't simple. Bibidon moved closer to Lu Yuan and said meaningfully, "Ouch." Bibidon suddenly cried out in pain. Lu Yuan flicked his finger with his right hand, and a red mark appeared on Bibidon's forehead. "You actually hit me?" Bibidon stared at Lu Yuan in disbelief. Lu Yuan actually dared to flick his finger on her forehead. "Who asked you to let your imagination run wild?" Yi Shishirei is Elder Long's wife and Uncle Yang's mother. What nonsense are you spouting? Do you want to be spanked by me too? Lu Yuan said grumpily. The Dragon Emperor Douluo's wife. Bibidon blushed when she heard this. She was a little embarrassed. She had made a huge mistake this time. She thought that Lu Yuan's old habits were acting up again, and he was looking for another woman. She didn't expect Yi Shishirei to be Long Xiaoyao's woman. More importantly, they even had a child together. This time, she had really misunderstood. Even so, you can't hit me. Don't you have any respect? I'm the Pope. Bibidon immediately changed the topic. She looked at Lu Yuan and pouted. Is that so? That's impressive. However, I love to bully the Pope. Lu Yuan said plainly. He pulled Bibidon into his embrace and kissed her on the lips. Don't, there's someone here. Boo-hoo. Bibidon couldn't make a sound. Under Lu Yuan's lead, she was slowly intoxicated. The two of them kissed as if there was no one around. Yi Shishirei's lips twitched as she stood outside the pavilion. She suddenly missed Long Xiaoyao. Chapter 10:27. Pavilion in the middle of the lake. Lu Yuan and Bibidon were sitting opposite each other. Both of them were holding a cup of tea, and they were savoring it carefully. It seems like the relationship between the Dragon Emperor Douluo and the Death God Douluo is pretty good. Bibidon couldn't help but comment as he looked at Yi Shishirei and Long Xiaoyao, who were chatting happily. It had been 2 days since they last met. With Long Xiaoyao's speed, they should be able to reach the Martial Soul Palace in this amount of time. Lu Yuan was very comforted as he looked at Long Xiaoyao's joyful expression. Long Xiaoyao had helped him a lot, and had protected him since he was young. Lu Yuan had always remembered their friendship. Now that their family was reunited, some of his worries had been resolved. Elder Long and Elder Yi's relationship is indeed very good. It's true love between them. Lu Yuan sighed and looked at Bibidon. He laughed and said, "Some people even suspected that there was something going on between Elder Yi and me. Do you know that it's not true now? You're still talking about it." Bibidon glared at Lu Yuan and said angrily. She didn't expect this fellow to still talk about it after she made such a huge mistake the last time. "So what if I say it? Bite me," Lu Yuan said with a smile. Bibidon looked at Yi Shishire and Long Xiaoyao. After realizing that they didn't seem to notice anything, she pounced towards Lu Yuan. She opened her cherry lips and tried to bite Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan smiled faintly and wrapped his arms around Bibidong's waist, sealing her cherry lips with his. In an instant, the bite turned into a kiss. Muak. Lu Yuan kissed Bibidon again. He smiled as he looked at Bibidon in his arms. Over the past 2 days, he had been spending a lot of time with Bibidon. Their relationship had deepened. Bibidon rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan and sat on Lu Yuan's lap. She hugged Lu Yuan's neck with her jade-like arms and pouted slightly. It was as if she was in love when she was young. Lu Yuan gently hugged Bibidon's slender waist. He looked at her lovingly. "Have you made up your mind?" Bibidong looked at Lu Yuan with his pink eyes and asked softly. "Consider what?" Lu Yuan was a little confused. "Consider what I said 26 years ago," Bibidon said. "What is it?" Lu Yuan still had a blank look on his face. "Don't play dumb with me. You clearly remember it. Tell me, when are you going to make me the empress?" Bibidon stared at Lu Yuan. There was a strange pressure in her beautiful eyes. "Why is it this again? Dong is the position of the empress so important?" Lu Yuan asked with a headache. "Of course the position of the empress is important. It is directly related to the peace and stability of your harem. Without a suitable empress, your harem will be in a state of disunity. Everyone will do their own thing and scheme against each other. The empress of the harem needs to have absolute prestige and be able to convince the masses. At the same time, she must have absolute qualifications. Cher is not qualified for this position, but I am completely qualified for this position. As the Pope of the Martial Soul Palace, there is no need to say more about my prestige. Moreover, I have been in love with you 26 years ago. My qualifications are definitely enough. As for my skills, I can even manage the huge Martial Soul Palace in an orderly manner. Managing a harem is just a piece of cake. I can guarantee that if I become the empress of the harem, you won't have to worry about the harem in the future. I will definitely manage it properly for you," Bibidon said with a face full of confidence. Looking at Bibidon's confident appearance, Lu Yuan couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. "You say it so easily. If you become the empress of the harem, Cher will be the first to object. Moreover, the current situation is quite good. Everything is harmonious. You like to cause trouble, don't you?" Lu Yuan stretched out his hand and pinched Bibidon's cheek. "Then," he said, "you are indeed very capable. You also have the dignity of the empress of the harem. However, I already said that I will give it to Cher. It's not good to change your mind constantly. You also said that it will only be the 3 of them. Didn't it become 6 now?" Bibidon said with a twitch of his mouth. Hearing this, Lu Yuan's mouth twitched again. He really couldn't respond to this. Isn't this a special situation? I didn't take the initiative to flirt with them. Rongrong is throwing himself at them. Na is bound by blood, Lu Yuan tried to explain, but before he could finish, he was interrupted by Bibidon. "Then what about me? Didn't you force a kiss on me?" Bibidon looked at Lu Yuan with a smile that wasn't a smile. "I pursued you because I saw that you were naked. I wanted to take responsibility," Lu Yuan said. "Oh, so you didn't do anything wrong?" Bibidon sneered at Lu Yuan. "I did," Lu Yuan said honestly and sincerely. Bibidon snorted. Then, she leaned in front of Lu Yuan and fiercely bit his lips. She said, "Anyway, I must have the position of the empress of the harem. I don't want anyone to suppress me. Especially Cher. I watched her birth. Now that she wants to suppress me, I can't stand it. That's true. Lu Yuan gently stroked Bibidon's beautiful face and said softly, let me think about this matter. Don't be anxious. I have to sound out Cher and understand her thoughts. It wasn't easy for me to settle things with her so that we can be together openly. You don't want the relationship between the three of us to be strained again, do you, Dong-er? Well, then I'll wait a few more days. Bibidon pouted and looked aggrieved. Well, don't pretend to be so aggrieved. I know you're happy in your heart, little guy. Pinching Bibidon's nose, Lu Yuan said snappily. Hee. Bibidon smiled and lay in Lu Yuan's arms. In the past, Lu Yuan firmly rejected her. This time, he was willing to let her go. She was really happy in her heart. Lu Yuan kissed Bibidon's forehead and said, Dong-er, it's time for our relationship to be officially announced to everyone. I'll leave it to you. Bibidon's eyes lit up. All right. Lu Yuan nodded and gently stroked Bibidon's soft purple hair. The next morning. In the pontiff's palace. The elders of the imperial palace and the holy hall stood in two groups. The Jew Douluo was the leader of the pontiff's palace, while the golden crocodile was the leader of the holy hall. Bibidon held her scepter and sat on the pontiff's throne. She wore a purplish golden crown on her head and a pontiff's robe. She was so graceful and elegant, and she exuded the aura of an empress. There was an indescribable sense of majesty in her gentle beauty. Lu Yuan looked at Bibidon with admiration. His wife could be gentle or tough at the same time. She could be innocent, adorable, pure, and flawless, but she could also be cold and graceful, noble and dignified. She was really charming. Chapter 1028. Bibidon's appearance wasn't the most beautiful among his women, but Lu Yuan felt that she was the most attractive right now. The more he got along with Bibidon, the deeper he fell, until he couldn't extricate himself from it. Especially after he had a sweet relationship with Bibidon 26 years ago, Bibidon's position in his heart rose to a new height. In a sense, Bibidon was his first girlfriend. Men always had inexplicable special feelings for their first girlfriend. Lu Yuan stared at Bibidon. Naturally, he couldn't hide it from Bibidon herself. She glared at Lu Yuan, but the corners of her mouth inadvertently hooked up. The more infatuated Lu Yuan was with her, the happier she was. After all, which woman didn't like the person they loved looking at them with infatuated eyes? Bibidon was no exception. Looking at Bibidon's eyes, Lu Yuan smiled faintly. He was now beside Bibidon. The two were exchanging glances. The elders and consecrators below could all see it clearly, but they all lowered their noses to their ears and didn't say a word. On the other hand, Golden Crocodile looked at the two with a complicated expression. Although he already knew that Bibidon and Chihiro Snow weren't mother and daughter, and had already tacitly agreed to the matter between Lu Yuan and Bibidon, he was still a little unhappy from the bottom of his heart. Bibidon's age and identity were a little bit, but it wasn't important. Golden Crocodile was worried that Lu Yuan was too in love with Bibidon, which would affect Chihiro Snow's position in Lu Yuan's heart. In the past, Lu Yuan loved Chihiro Snow the most, but now it wasn't certain. Lu Yuan was willing to fall out with them for Bibidon. This relationship was probably not inferior to the relationship between her and Chihiro Snow. As the person who watched Chihiro Snow grow up, Golden Crocodile undoubtedly doted on her a lot. Naturally, he wasn't happy to see this situation. However, although he wasn't happy, he couldn't do anything other than give Lu Yuan a few words from time to time. He didn't dare to persuade Lu Yuan to leave Bibidon. The previous matter was still vivid in his mind. He was afraid that if he forced Lu Yuan into a corner, they would part on bad terms again. I hope that Ibuchi can remember Cher more. Cher is his first love, and also his childhood sweetheart. Golden Crocodile sighed in his heart. Lu Yuan naturally didn't know what Golden Crocodile was thinking. He was still admiring Bibidon's beautiful face. Of course, even if he knew, he wouldn't care too much, because Golden Crocodile was simply worrying for nothing. In his heart, Chihiro Snow and Bibidon were almost the same. They were both his favorites. Naturally, he would always remember Chihiro Snow. As for why he had two favorites, there was no need to ask. If he did, it would show that he had a big heart and universal love. Lu Yuan winked at Bibidon, then turned around with a smile. With his hands behind his back, he looked at the elders and consecrated below. Today, I gathered everyone in the pontiff's palace because I have something to announce. Lu Yuan's gaze swept across, carrying a strong pressure. The power of his gaze was so strong that it made the elders and consecrated below tremble. His Highness the Holy Sun is really getting more and more terrifying. Many elders and consecrated couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. They looked at Lu Yuan with even more reverence. Strength was the absolute truth. They were both holy sons and holy daughters, so logically speaking, their statuses should be equal. However, when facing Hulena, these elders and consecrated weren't very convinced, and didn't take it to heart. However, when facing Lu Yuan, they were all very respectful, as if they were facing Bibidon. Some consecrated, such as Qianjun Exorcist, didn't even submit to Bibidon, the Pope. Instead, they submitted to Lu Yuan, the Holy Sun. It could be said that Lu Yuan's prestige in the martial Soul Palace wasn't inferior to Bibidon's. Why was that? Firstly, it was because he had the support of the Dragon King Palace behind him. Secondly, it was because of Lu Yuan's own strength. Lu Yuan was now the #1 expert in the martial Soul Palace. In the face of absolute strength, who would dare to be unconvinced? May I know what His Highness the Holy Sun is going to announce? When he saw Lu Yuan secretly giving him a look, the chrysanthemum Douluo immediately understood what he was trying to say, and immediately stepped forward to help. He had to cling on to Lu Yuan's golden thigh. He was going to be his boss in the future. Both he and Old Ghost were completely loyal to the Pope, and Lu Yuan was definitely going to be the next Pope. How could he not build a good relationship with him in advance? After hearing the chrysanthemum Douluo's words, a look of satisfaction flashed across Lu Yuan's eyes. The chrysanthemum Douluo was only a rank 96 transcendent Douluo, which was nothing in Lu Yuan's eyes. However, he was a very good person, and was very good at reading people's expressions. It didn't seem like a bad thing to have another lackey like him. Originally, Lu Yuan had called him Uncle Chrysanthemum on account of their friendship since they were young. However, the chrysanthemum Douluo didn't want Lu Yuan to call him that. He insisted on being Lu Yuan's subordinate, so Lu Yuan had no choice but to accede to his request. After nodding at the chrysanthemum Douluo, Lu Yuan calmly said, "Elder Chrysanthemum's question is very good. I've invited everyone here today mainly because I want everyone to witness the love between Dong-er and I." As he spoke, Lu Yuan strode over to Bibidon and held her hand. Bibidon smiled gently and also stood up to stand beside Lu Yuan. "From today onwards, Dong-er is my woman. We'll hold our wedding after the continent is unified. Today, I'm here to announce this to everyone. I hope everyone can give us their blessings. I'm sure no one will object to Dong-er and I being together, right?" Lu Yuan spoke in an indifferent voice as he swept his gaze across the entire hall with his dual pupils. Under Lu Yuan's gaze, the entire hall instantly fell deathly silent. Judging from Lu Yuan's ferocious expression, none of the elders dared to raise any objections. After all, they hadn't lived long enough yet. Furthermore, whether or not His Holiness and His Highness were together didn't have much to do with them. As for whether or not they were master and disciple, that was bullsh*t. Didn't they know what privilege was? Besides, it wasn't a breach of ethics, so what if they were together? There was no issue at all. His Holiness and His Highness are a match made in heaven, so how could we dare to raise any objections? I wish His Holiness and His Highness a blissful marriage. As the #1 lackey, the chrysanthemum Douluo was the first to speak up. With the chrysanthemum Douluo taking the lead, all of the other elders and worshippers also followed suit and offered their blessings. Lu Yuan nodded in satisfaction. He flipped his palm over, and a shiny golden pill appeared in his hand. This is a universal barrier-breaking pill. It can increase the soul power of a titled Douluo below the limit by 1 rank. A rank 98 pinnacle Douluo can reach the half-step limit after consuming it. Elder Chrysanthemum, you've worked hard for the Martial Soul Palace, and you've contributed greatly. I'll bestow this pill to you. Lu Yuan spoke softly as he tossed the pill toward the Chrysanthemum Douluo. Chapter 1029. The Chrysanthemum Douluo hurriedly received the pill with an elated look on his face. Thank you for your reward, Your Highness. I will continue to work hard and serve the Supreme Pontiff and the Holy Sun wholeheartedly. The Chrysanthemum Douluo knelt down on one knee and spoke loudly. The rest of the elders and worshipped looked at the Chrysanthemum Douluo enviously. A pill that could increase a titled Douluo's soul power by 1 rank. They also wanted something like that. In fact, everyone knew that all that talk about serving the Holy Sun was fake. There were many elders and worshipped who had worked harder than the Chrysanthemum Douluo, but why didn't Lu Yuan give the pill to the Chrysanthemum Douluo? It was because the Chrysanthemum Douluo had served the Holy Sun wholeheartedly, and he was also very good at sucking up to the Holy Sun. If they also served the Holy Sun wholeheartedly, would they also be rewarded? Many of the elders and worshipped had their own thoughts. After all, every rank in the titled Douluo realm meant a huge difference in power. This was especially so after becoming a transcendent Douluo. For example, the rank 96 Chrysanthemum Douluo definitely wouldn't have to expend much effort to defeat the rank 95 Ghost Douluo. In fact, even the Golden Crocodile was a little tempted. A pill that could increase his power from rank 98 to the limit of the Soul Douluo realm was a significant improvement. While he was tempted, he couldn't help but sigh in amazement. If Lu Yuan were to do this, all of the elders and worshipped would be under his control. Impressive, Abuchi. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Indeed, as soon as he finished speaking in his heart, Lu Yuan's voice rang out. The Cosmic Barrier Breaking Pill is a pill that I have painstakingly researched. Even though the ingredients used are extremely precious, I still have some in stock. As long as you contribute to the Martial Soul Palace, I will reward you generously. I hope that everyone will work hard to make the Martial Soul Palace even more powerful. Lu Yuan spoke loudly. I will do my best to serve the Martial Soul Palace, His Holiness the Pope, and His Highness the Holy Sun. Many elders and worshippers said in unison. Hearing this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but tilt his head and look at Bibidon. Both of them smiled. Holding Bibidon's hand, Lu Yuan and her strolled along the path outside the Pope's palace. Such a public display of affection was a delightful experience for the two of them. Dong I've already instructed the Douluo and the others to spread the news of our relationship to all of the Martial Soul Branch halls. With their efforts, it won't be long before the entire continent knows that you're my woman. I've done what I promised you, Lu Yuan said softly. I understand. Bibidon leaned gently on Lu Yuan's shoulder with a blissful smile on her face. Abuchi, it's so good to be with you. I think so too. Dong to be able to find a wife like you is the blessing of my past life. Lu Yuan gently wrapped his arm around Bibidon's waist and said softly. Hearing this, Bibidon smiled. She tiptoed and kissed Lu Yuan on the cheek. Lu Yuan immediately retaliated, and the two of them kissed passionately again. The two of them were passionately in love, and they were inseparable. After kissing, the two of them continued to walk forward. As Bibidon walked, she looked at Lu Yuan and said with a smile, Abuchi, your arrangements are very good this time. You bought the hearts of all the elders with a single pill, and truly controlled the Martial Soul Palace. You've really matured a lot. After hearing Bibidon's words, Lu Yuan smiled faintly and said, this is actually nothing. Everyone has their own goals. For those powerful soul masters, such as titled Douluo, what they care about the most is their own strength. This is a world where the strong are respected. Without strength, it's difficult to move forward. Everyone wants to become stronger. Knowing what they want, it's not difficult to control them. After hearing this, Bibidon nodded gently. Lu Yuan's words were very reasonable. The world was filled with people for benefits. To win over people's hearts, it was not enough to rely on power alone. Benefits were more important. As long as there were enough benefits, there was no need to worry about people being disloyal. Bibidon squeezed Lu Yuan's hand and said, Abuchi, I'm preparing to attack the Sionra Empire and unify the continent. Lu Yuan smiled and said, You can't help but want to marry me. He did not forget what he said in the morning. As long as the continent was unified, he would marry Bibidon. Yes, if we don't get married soon, I'll really be old. Bibidon blinked her beautiful eyes and looked at Lu Yuan without blinking. Looking at Bibidon, who was still like a young girl, Lu Yuan could not help but smile faintly. She had taken a top-grade face-retaining pill, so how could she be old? However, Lu Yuan could understand this feeling of wanting to get married quickly. He was the same. Although he had many girlfriends, he had not truly gotten married, so he did not really have his own family. Okay, then let's fight. Let's unify the continent first. When the time comes, I'll be the first to marry you, Lu Yuan said with a smile. When Lu Yuan said this, Bibidon was immediately overjoyed. Her charming face was full of smiles. Angel Temple. Lu Yuan stood in the Angel Temple. Chihiro Snow sat with his back to him in front of the angel statue. Sendryu stood beside Chihiro Snow, looking at him with cold eyes. Lu Yuan's mouth twitched. It had been a week since he had sent Chihiro Snow back. During this week, he and Chihiro Snow had not seen each other. To be precise, Chihiro Snow was still angry with him. Women were born to pester endlessly. Although he had explained everything clearly, Chihiro Snow was still angry. He could not do anything about it. Hit, not willing. Scolded, not willing. He wanted to comfort Chen Renshue, but Chen Renshue wouldn't listen. However, he couldn't do it if he had to grovel and coax Chen Renshue, so he simply didn't come for a week to let Chen Renshue calm down. But now it seemed that Chihiro Snow was still the same. What are you doing here? Sendryu looked at Lu Yuan and said coldly. Lu Yuan glanced at him and said indifferently, I came to find Cher. It has nothing to do with you. Hearing Sendryu's cold tone, Lu Yuan was not in a good mood. He felt sorry for Chihiro Snow, but Sendryu, he did not take it to heart. Sendryu was not like the golden crocodile. The golden crocodile saw him as his successor and treated him like his own grandson. Sendryu saw him purely because of his talent. He treated him well because he thought that he could help the martial soul palace become stronger. Lu Yuan was well aware of this from the very beginning. Chapter 1030. Therefore, no matter how much Golden Crocodile cursed at him, even to the extent of spitting dog blood at him, he wasn't the slightest bit angry. This was because he knew that Golden Crocodile was concerned about him, and was doing this for his own good. And Sendryu had always considered the martial soul palace and Chihiro Snow, not him. Therefore, he didn't have that much patience with Sendryu. He had already helped the martial soul palace become even more powerful. Wasn't this Sendryu's wish? Therefore, he didn't owe Sendryu anything. Usually, on account of Chen Renshue, he was willing to call him grandpa as a form of respect. But now, he and Chihiro Snow had a conflict, and Sendryu was still putting on airs in front of him. How could he give him any face? Moreover, don't think that he didn't know that this guy had already told Chihiro Snow about the Chihiro disease. After all, Bibidon and Chihiro Snow no longer had a mother-daughter relationship, so Sendryu didn't have any misgivings. Cher doesn't want to see you. Please leave. The Angel Temple doesn't welcome you. Hearing Lu Yuan's disrespectful words, Sendryu's face darkened, and he said indifferently. He was so polite to the Golden Crocodile, and didn't even talk back after being scolded. In the end, he didn't take him seriously at all. Could it be that he, Sendryu, was inferior to the Golden Crocodile? Sendryu thought to himself. Lu Yuan seemed to have turned a deaf ear to Sendryu's words. He didn't even look at Sendryu as he walked towards Chihiro Snow. Seeing that Lu Yuan didn't listen to him at all, Sendryu's face became even darker. His figure moved, directly blocking in front of Lu Yuan. Get out of the way, Lu Yuan said coldly. Sendryu did not move. He said indifferently, the Angel Temple does not welcome you. Please leave. So what if you control the entire martial soul palace? I still have the final say here. Really? Lu Yuan's eyes widened slightly, and a powerful aura rose. A terrifying pressure directly pressed down on Sendriu's body, causing his legs to go soft and his entire body to tremble. He almost fell to the ground. You want to stop me with your triangular cat kung fu? Lu Yuan's lips curled into a disdainful smile as he sneered. Sendriu didn't answer. The aura on his body suddenly rose, and he struggled to resist the pressure that Lu Yuan was exerting on him. Enough! Chihiro Snow shouted. She turned around and looked at Lu Yuan angrily. Do you want to beat up my grandfather in front of me? Chihiro Snow asked coldly. I don't think so. Did you see me do it? Lu Yuan spread his hands and laughed softly. But your grandfather is really weak. Lu Yuan retracted the pressure on his body and added. Sendriu was furious when he heard this. He looked at Lu Yuan with an unfriendly gaze. He was an ultimate Douluo, the spokesperson of the angel god. This was the first time someone dared to call him weak. Chihiro Snow glared at Lu Yuan before she turned around and whispered to Sendriu, Grandfather, you can leave first. Cher, you have to be careful. Don't be fooled by this brat's flowery words again. Remember to give him a good scolding. Sendriu glared at Lu Yuan after he finished speaking before he turned around and walked out. He's an ultimate Douluo. Lu Yuan pursed his lips as he looked at Sendriu's back. You still have the nerve to speak ill of others? Chihiro Snow glared at Lu Yuan and said indifferently. Lu Yuan rolled his eyes and walked over to Chihiro Snow's side. He took a futon and sat down. Cher, you should be done being angry. It's been a week. Lu Yuan looked at Chihiro Snow and said helplessly. It's still early. Who asked you to be together with Bibidon? There are so many women in the world, but you don't like them. Why do you have to like her? Chihiro Snow said unhappily. Who asked her to be so charming? Furthermore, I accidentally saw her naked. I have to take responsibility, Lu Yuan said indifferently as he recounted how he saw Bibidon's body. Chihiro Snow pursed his lips and said, You don't do much with your polychoria, but you're good at peeping. I think you should dig them out. Lu Yuan took a deep breath when he heard this. He looked at Chihiro Snow and said, Cher, you don't have to be so ruthless. Yes, I have to be ruthless, Chihiro Snow said coldly. Sigh, a woman's heart is indeed the most vicious. I dote on you and treat you well, but you want to dig my eyes out. Lu Yuan sighed and said, If I dig your eyes out, you'll become ugly. No one will like you then, and you can only stay by my side. Chihiro Snow said seriously. Then your love is really overbearing and twisted. Lu Yuan said with a smack of his tongue. I don't want to be like this, but you went too far. Chihiro Snow said. Lu Yuan was silent and didn't answer. Chihiro Snow looked at Lu Yuan in front of her, and a touch of softness flashed through her eyes. She loved Lu Yuan very much. Although she had been angry for a week, she still thought about Lu Yuan. However, she was still arrogant. Even if she thought about Lu Yuan, she couldn't bring herself to look for Lu Yuan. Moreover, Bibidon and Lu Yuan were together, so she didn't want to go. She didn't want to see Bibidon. She didn't like Bibidon. Even if she knew everything, including that Bibidon wasn't her mother, she still didn't like Bibidon. I heard from Grandpa that my father was killed by Bibidon. Do you have anything to say? Chihiro Snow looked at Lu Yuan calmly and asked lightly. Cher, you should know that your father, Chihiro Disease, is not a good person, Lu Yuan said. I know, but even so, he is still my father. You know that I don't have a mother. He is my only father, Chihiro Snow said calmly. I understand. That's why I didn't kill him back then. Otherwise, if someone else dared to do something bad to Dong he would have died 10,000 times, Lu Yuan said softly. Although you didn't kill him, Bibidon still killed him, Chihiro Snow said. Dong didn't kill him. It was Tang Hao who killed him. He died soon after he was beaten by Tang Hao, Lu Yuan said. Do you have evidence? Chihiro Snow asked. I don't have evidence, but this is what Dong said. I believe that she won't lie to me, Lu Yuan said firmly. You believe her, but I don't. Chihiro Snow said coldly, but then her tone changed and she said, but for your sake, I will believe this for the time being. Let's assume that my father was killed by Tang Hao. Hearing this, Lu Yuan was suddenly happy. He couldn't help but grab Chihiro Snow's hand. Share. Lu Yuan called softly. Chihiro Snow sighed softly and looked at Lu Yuan with a complicated gaze. Abuchi, sometimes I really hate you and want to bite you to death. But when you are standing in front of me, I can't bear to blame you. I'm really useless. Chihiro Snow said with some self-mockery. Chapter 1031. No, it's not that you're useless. It's because you love me. I'm very happy, Cher. Lu Yuan looked at Chihiro Snow with sincere eyes, and then pulled her into his arms. Cher, let's not have any more conflicts in the future, okay? Lu Yuan said softly as he stroked Chihiro Snow's long blonde hair. I don't want to have any conflicts with you. I also want to lie quietly in your arms every time, but every time you do something, you poke at my sensitive spot. Abuchi, I'm not narrow-minded. It's just that there are some things that I really can't tolerate. Chihiro Snow looked at Lu Yuan with her beautiful golden eyes and said with a serious expression. But it turns out that what I did wasn't too much. Douluo isn't your mother. There's nothing wrong with me being with her. Lu Yuan said softly. I didn't know her identity beforehand. At that time, when I saw you with her, can't I be angry? Chihiro Snow asked. You can be angry, you can be angry. I'm just saying. I don't blame you. It's normal for you to be angry. I just didn't expect you to be so agitated that you wanted to kill Douluo. Lu Yuan said. I originally wanted to suppress my anger and talk to you guys, but you guys actually hugged each other in public and acted so intimately. At that time, anger surged in my heart. In addition, I already hated her, so how could I think so much? Chihiro Snow snorted and said. And you're also biased. You actually blocked the sword for her. Although I knew that the sword couldn't hurt you, I was still very worried, so you're even angrier, right? Lu Yuan said with a wry smile. Yes, I was very angry when I saw you being so intimate with her. When you blocked the sword for her, I was even angrier. Chihiro Snow nodded and said. Hearing this, Lu Yuan sighed softly. He gently stroked Chihiro Snow's cheek and said, I had to block it. If I didn't block it, that sword would have pierced Douluo. And if you really stabbed her, I really don't know how to face you. Will you kill me for her? Or will you completely abandon me? Chihiro Snow looked at Lu Yuan seriously. I won't kill you. I can't bear to kill you. I can't bear to kill you. I can raise a butcher's knife to anyone, but I can't do it to the person I love. But our fate may end. Cher, it doesn't matter if you hurt me. Seeing that you're too emotional and have suffered too much, I can ignore it. After all, I'm your man. I can tolerate you appropriately, but I can't allow you to hurt my woman. My woman can't be bullied by anyone except me. Even if the person who wants to bully is my woman, Cher, do you understand? Lu Yuan asked with a serious expression. I understand. Chihiro Snow nodded and said softly. Ari. Looking at Chihiro Snow's bleak and helpless expression, Lu Yuan sighed softly. He couldn't help but hug her a little tighter. He gently kissed her forehead. The past is the past. There's no need to mention it again. Cher, we have to start a new life from now on. Don't be immersed in the past. People have to look forward. Lu Yuan said in a low voice. Chihiro Snow nodded softly. She fell silent for a moment. Suddenly, her golden eyes flashed. Abuchi, how long has it been since we were intimate? It's been a long time. Lu Yuan raised his eyebrows. Ever since he went to the Sea God's Island, he hadn't been intimate with Chihiro Snow. Then don't you want to be intimate with me? Chen Renshue's beautiful eyes fluttered as she looked at Lu Yuan with her big, watery eyes. Her voice was soft and seductive. Of course I do. Lu Yuan smiled. Being intimate with Chihiro Snow was something that he couldn't wish for more. Then what are you waiting for? If it were the old you, you would have pounced on me already. Chihiro Snow's eyes shimmered as she said softly. Lu Yuan smiled faintly. Since you can't wait, I'll satisfy you. As he spoke, he picked up Chihiro Snow and carried her into the secret realm inside the angel statue. As for what they were going to do, everyone knew. Cough cough. 2 months passed in the blink of an eye. During these 2 months, the Martial Soul Palace, the Heaven Do Empire, and the Dragon King Palace had joined forces and launched a frenzied attack on the Sionra Empire. The Sionra Empire wasn't weak. In fact, its army was quite strong. However, the Douluo continent was a world where the strong were respected. A Soul Emperor could fight against 10,000 people, let alone Soul Sages, Soul Douluo, and even titled Douluo. Furthermore, the Martial Soul Palace had an extremely elite Soul Master Legion. In such a battle, they had unimaginably terrifying fighting strength. Furthermore, they had the help of the Dragon King Palace's soul tools. They were able to take down cities and strongholds with ease. Apart from the Martial Soul Palace and the Dragon King Palace's strength, the Netherworld family, led by Zhu Junlin, responded to the attack. They worked together from both inside and outside, and managed to conquer most of the Sionra Empire's territory in less than 2 months. Only the Star Luo Imperial City was still holding on. However, it was barely hanging on. As long as the Martial Soul Palace launched their final attack, the Star Luo Imperial City would be destroyed in a matter of days. There were millions of soldiers stationed outside the Star Luo Imperial City. Most of them were from the Heaven Do Empire, while the rest were from the Martial Soul Palace's Soul Master Legions and the Dragon King Palace's Soul Tool Legions. There was a large tent in the middle of the army. Long Xiaoyaro, the Golden Crocodile, the Heaven Do Empire's commander, Ji Long, and the rest were all present. The Holy Sun said that he would come. Why is he still nowhere to be seen? The Golden Crocodile asked curiously. Even though he was Lu Yuan's elder, he still had to address Lu Yuan as the Holy Sun in front of everyone. After all, etiquette couldn't be ignored. Master will be here soon. Please don't be anxious. Long Xiaoyaro said softly. Yes, please wait patiently. Yi Shishure said plainly. Her expression was a little cold. Apart from Lu Yuan and Long Xiaoyaro, she didn't bother to speak to anyone else. The power of vengeance on her body had been cleansed by Lu Yuan. She had also changed into a white robe. As long as she didn't use her first martial soul, no one would know that she was an evil soul master. However, even though the power of vengeance had been cleansed, her abilities didn't change at all. She was still releasing the aura of an ultimate Douluo. Anyone with some eyesight could sense her immense soul power. Her aura wasn't inferior to Long Xiaoyao's. In fact, it was even a little stronger. Therefore, everyone in the tent was still very respectful towards Yi Shishure. Seeing that both Long Xiaoyaro and Yi Shishure had spoken at the same time, the rest didn't ask any more questions. What could they do if he didn't come? They could only wait obediently. Chapter 1032. At the same time, in the Angel Secret Realm, 2 streaks of golden light clashed in the air, and a holy aura swept across the entire place. Chihiro Snow was holding his Class 9 holy sword as he clashed with Sendryu. Chihiro Snow's test was to defeat the Angel Douluo Sendryu in the 6th test. As for the 5th test, he had already completed it in the past 2 months. How should he put it? From Lu Yuan's point of view, the 5th test was a piece of cake. It was not difficult at all, so he did not even bother to mention it. Qian Runshue's Angel's 6th trial was to defeat the 1000 Dao Flow. However, Lu Yuan's 6th trial of the Sacred Sword was a little different. Considering Lu Yuan's unbalanced strength, the 6th trial of the Sacred Sword stipulated that Lu Yuan could not attack the 1000 Dao Flow. Otherwise, there would be no meaning to the trial. With Lu Yuan's current powers, a single slap was more than enough to defeat a limit Douluo's 1000 Dao Flow. One slap was enough to teach him the meaning of cruelty. The 6th trial of the Holy Sword trial was to assist Qian Renshue in defeating the Angel Douluo, Qian Renshue. The most important thing was to assist. Chihiro Snow was an 85 extreme soul Douluo, and he had 4 angel soul bones. In addition to the strength of his 8-winged angel, the strength of his 100,000-year soul ring, and the sharpness of his class 9 soul tool, he had no problem defeating an ordinary rank 96 transcendent Douluo. However, it would be impossible for him to defeat Sendryu. An ultimate Douluo was no ordinary person. Even if Chihiro Snow gave it his all, he wouldn't be able to last for 5 minutes. Therefore, he had to rely on Lu Yuan's assistance. Lu Yuan's response to this test was very simple. He directly opened his domain. After his Golden Dragon domain had evolved to the 4th level, its effects had reached an extremely terrifying level. Disregarding the special effects, the Golden Dragon domain's basic effect was to increase a Soul Master's attributes by 50%, and weaken an enemy Soul Master's attributes by 50%. This was equivalent to a 100% increase in attribute. If it was only the Golden Dragon domain's effects wouldn't be as strong. However, how could the Golden Dragon compare to the 5-clawed Golden Dragon King? Even the Dragon God was far from enough to compare with it. After his martial soul evolved into the 5-clawed Golden Dragon King, the Golden Dragon domain also evolved and became even stronger. It could be said that the Golden Dragon domain's effects were unprecedented, because the 5-clawed Golden Dragon King was the most powerful beast martial soul in history. No other beast martial soul could compare to it. In addition, there was also the effect of the dragon's might excitement and other special domain effects. Qian Runshua's strength could increase again, and the strength of the 1000 Dao flow would decrease again. However, a limit Douluo was still a limit Douluo, after all. Even though he had lost so much of his power, he was still very powerful. Therefore, Lu Yuan also activated the Killer God's domain. Naturally, Lu Yuan's Killer God's domain had reached the 4th stage. Although the Golden Dragon domain wasn't as terrifying as the Golden Dragon domain, it was still the embryonic form of the Azura Divine Azura domain, and its power was extraordinary. Sendryu's strength was greatly weakened by the 2 domains. At most, he only had 10% of his original strength. Chihiro Snow, on the other hand, had received a double boost from the 2 domains. His strength had increased to a terrifying level. Originally, he could only defeat a rank 96 transcendent Douluo, but now, he was a half-step limit Douluo. The speed of his improvement was comparable to flying. And all of this was because of Lu Yuan's 2 domains. In this way, the battle was truly exciting. Qian Renshue and Qian Daoliu were locked in a fierce battle. Lu Yuan, on the other hand, was sitting with his legs crossed, watching the battle leisurely. TSK, it seems like I have the potential to be an auxiliary-type soul master. Even if Rong Rong's 9 treasures glazed pagoda reaches the level of a titled Douluo and increases all his attributes by 100%, it's not as crazy as my 2 domain. Rong Rong can only strengthen his own side. My domain can not only strengthen my own side, but it can also weaken my opponent. This is really double the happiness. Lu Yuan laughed softly. Chihiro Snow didn't have the qualifications to fight Sendryu. However, after Lu Yuan's interference, he was completely on par with Sendryu. He even had the upper hand. The strength of the 2 domains was not hard to imagine. It's a pity that domains aren't very useful against opponents of the same level. Lu Yuan couldn't help but sigh. To Sendryu, who was weaker than him, domains were extremely powerful. They could weaken him to the point that Sendryu couldn't even release his angel's domain because the gap was too big. Lu Yuan's domain wasn't very useful against gods of the same level. Which god didn't have a god's domain? Furthermore, unless the gap between the 2 parties was too big, even if they were bound by the other party's domain, they could quickly escape. If the gap was too big, they could settle it in 2 or 3 moves. Why would they need to use domains? Therefore, in the realm of gods, there were no gods who relied on domains to determine victory or defeat in a battle. It was still a battle between one's own divine skills and divine tools. There was a huge difference between having a supra-divine tool and not having one. Even if it wasn't a supra-divine tool, there was still a huge difference between a master divine tool and an ordinary divine tool. Angel's Void Storm. Chihiro Snow's 8th soul ring lit up. The eight-winged angel opened its arms, and endless holy light condensed. Chihiro Snow slashed down with his sword, and a golden energy storm immediately appeared in the sky. Angel's demon-slaying slash. Sendryu also slashed down with his sword, and a terrifying energy wave began to spread from the tip of his sword in all directions. A long sword that was hundreds of meters long slashed directly at the golden storm. Boom! The two terrifying attacks collided, and a terrifying energy wave was set off. Under this energy wave, Chihiro Snow and Sendryu were both sent flying. Chihiro Snow spat out a mouthful of golden blood. It was obvious that she was injured. However, with the protection of the mysterious character, she quickly recovered. Sendryu, on the other hand, was unusually pale, and there was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. "You won, share," Sendryu said softly, looking at Chihiro Snow with a gentle gaze. "Grandpa," Chihiro Snow murmured softly, and there was a trace of concern on her face. "Don't worry, Grandpa, you won. Grandpa is very happy," Sendryu said with a smile. Chihiro Snow acknowledged, and a smile appeared on her face. "Share, well done." Lu Yuan moved, and directly went to Chihiro Snow's side, and pulled her into his arms. Sendryu was originally smiling, but when he saw Lu Yuan, he immediately snorted, and his face darkened. Lu Yuan glanced at Sendryu, and then directly ignored him. "This old man's temper is quite bad, and he's throwing his face at me. I'm not used to your temper," Lu Yuan thought to himself. Chapter 1033. Alright, stop fighting. Abuchi, you too. Can't you give in to my grandfather? Chihiro Snow quickly stopped them when he saw the two of them staring at each other coldly. "Give in to him? Haha." Lu Yuan glanced at Sendryu and sneered. "Brat, what are you laughing at?" Sendryu couldn't help but ask angrily when he heard the disdain in Lu Yuan's laughter. "Why should I tell you what I'm laughing at?" Lu Yuan said coldly. What about me? If you can't speak, then don't speak. Look at your age. If you're injured, then go and recuperate. Why are you talking so much?" Lu Yuan raised his eyelids slightly and said lightly. "You brat." Sendryu's face darkened. Was this brat secretly mocking him for being weak? Was that why he deliberately pointed out his injury? "Alright, Abuchi, stop it." Chihiro Snow grabbed Lu Yuan's hand and said softly. "I don't want to cause trouble. It's this old man who's giving me a hard time. Do I owe him?" Lu Yuan curled his lips and said. As soon as he said this, Sendryu's face darkened even more. He snorted, flicked his sleeves and left. After Chen Daoliu left, Chen Runshua gave Lu Yuan a reproachful look and said, You're still like a child who hasn't grown up yet. You want to fight over such a small matter. That's because your grandfather wanted to argue first," Lu Yuan said. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow suddenly froze. After a moment, she sighed softly and said, "That's right. Grandfather seems to be at odds with you. But don't take it to heart. He doesn't have any malicious intentions. He just can't get rid of his face. I didn't take it to heart. Actually, I think it's pretty good this way. At least there's someone for me to insult. Your grandfather's rank is too low. Every time I say a few words, he gets angry," Lu Yuan said with a smile. Chihiro Snow was speechless. She looked at Lu Yuan and said softly, "Then you should be careful. Don't make my grandfather angry. He won't be so easily angered. He's an ultimate Douluo, so he'll be fine. Don't worry." Lu Yuan waved his hand in a nonchalant manner. Chihiro Snow glanced at Lu Yuan and sighed softly. Lu Yuan and Sendryu couldn't get along. They would quarrel whenever they met, and the one who was in the middle was her. Fortunately, Lu Yuan and Sendryu knew their limits. They would quarrel, but they wouldn't get into a fight. Otherwise, she really wouldn't know what to do. Lu Yuan reached out and hugged Chihiro Snow. He asked with concern, "Cher, are your injuries all right?" "I'm fine. It's just a small injury. I've already fully recovered after using the Esper secret character," Chihiro Snow said. Once the Esper secret character was cultivated to greater mastery, one could be reborn from a single drop of blood. Although Chihiro Snow hadn't studied it enough, such a small injury was nothing. That's good. Lu Yuan nodded. He reached out and caressed Chihiro Snow's pretty face. He said, "The allied army of the Heavenly Do Empire, Martial Soul Palace, and Dragon King Palace have already reached Douluo City. Today is the day of the final battle. I told them that I would be there today, so it's time for them to set off. As for your 7th test, we'll do it when we return. You should rest for a few days first." "All right, I'll listen to you," Chihiro Snow said gently. Lu Yuan smiled and kissed Chihiro Snow's face. After that, he carried Chihiro Snow and left the Angel Realm. In the tent of the million-strong army below Douluo City, the Golden Crocodile, Ji Long, and the rest looked at each other. They had already waited for an hour, but Lu Yuan still hadn't appeared. However, they didn't dare to say anything when they saw Long Xiaoyaro and Yi Shishirei waiting expressionlessly. Suddenly, a spatial crack opened above the army. Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow walked out from it, hand in hand. "Master is here." Long Xiao and Yi Shishirei's gazes suddenly turned serious as they spoke. As soon as these words were spoken, a burst of movement sounded in the big tent. Everyone's attention was raised. "Let's go, Cher," Lu Yuan said to Chihiro Snow. Chihiro Snow nodded. The two of them turned into 2 streaks of golden light and entered the tent. "Greetings, Holy Son and Holy Lady. Greetings, Master and Mistress. Greetings, Your Majesty. Greetings, Golden Dragon King." Everyone in the tent bowed when they saw the two of them. "Rise." Lu Yuan waved his hand and said. Everyone stood up one by one. Lu Yuan pulled Chihiro Snow to the main seat. He swept his gaze across and asked, "How are the preparations for the final battle?" "Your Highness, the preparations are complete. We can attack at any time." Ji Long stepped forward and said loudly. "Very good. Let's attack then. Today, I want to take down Douluo City." Lu Yuan said resolutely. "Yes, Your Highness." With Lu Yuan's command, the final siege battle began. The million-strong army, Soul Engineer Legion, and Soul Master Legion launched an all-out attack. The sounds of fighting, the sounds of soul tools exploding, and the cries of the dead could be heard. Blood flowed outside Douluo City. Corpses piled up like mountains. Dust and smoke filled the entire battlefield. Lu Yuan, Chihiro Snow, and a few others stood at the back. They watched the battle unfold. This is the battlefield. It's a huge meat grinder. Lu Yuan could not help but sigh softly as he watched the fierce battle. If we want to unify the continent, we have to shed some blood. This is just the beginning. Once the continent is unified, the lives of the commoners will become better. Chihiro Snow's watery eyes rippled as he spoke softly. That's true. The world has been united for a long time, and divided for a long time. It must be united. The Douluo continent has been divided for so many years, and it's time for it to be united. Lu Yuan nodded. He agreed with Chihiro Snow's words. He looked at Chihiro Snow and suddenly laughed. He asked, "Cher, when did you revert to your female form? If you didn't see Ji Long, and he didn't hesitate to call you Your Highness, I wouldn't have known." "About half a year ago. I was too tired pretending to be Xue Qinghe. Half a year ago, I reverted to my original appearance. Anyway, the Heaven Do Empire is already in my hands. There's no need to continue pretending." Chihiro Snow said. "The Heaven Do imperial family must have caused a ruckus, right?" Lu Yuan asked with a smile. "Yes, they did. That's why I killed the entire Heaven Do imperial family. Almost everyone was killed. In the end, no one was dissatisfied." Chihiro Snow said. "Haha, as expected of you. When it's time to be ruthless, you're still ruthless." Lu Yuan chuckled. He didn't care about Chihiro Snow's words. The Heaven Do imperial family wasn't the only one who had to be killed. The Douluo imperial family was the same. Chapter 1034. If they managed to conquer the Star Luo Imperial City today, the Star Luo royal family would definitely kill them all. They might leave 2 of the women alive, but they would definitely kill all the men. If they didn't remove the roots, they would grow again. It was good to have a compassionate heart, but only a fool would do such a thing if he couldn't save his compassionate heart for his enemy. Sparing them would only leave behind a seed of disaster for his own rule. Would he be grateful if he spared the enmity of the destruction of his country? They wouldn't be like a venomous snake, hiding in the dark and waiting for an opportunity to bite you. Although they might not be able to cause much damage, they were still a threat. They would jump out from time to annoy you. Lu Yuan, on the other hand, hated trouble the most. If he could kill them all, why would he show mercy? Killing them all would be the best choice. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow smiled. She was naturally very opinionated. When it was time to be ruthless, she wouldn't show mercy. She wasn't just a pretty face. She wasn't as kind as Ning Rongrong, Zhu Zhuqing, and the rest. She was very similar to Lu Yuan. She was intelligent and decisive. When it was time to be ruthless, she would be ruthless. However, she had her own bottom line. No matter what she did, she wouldn't let the war affect the civilians. Her only weakness was her feelings. In the original novel, she had failed because she was too soft-hearted. However, right now, her emotional weakness wasn't considered a weakness anymore. This was because she was on the same side as Lu Yuan. They were working towards the same goal. We've been fighting for so long, but the city hasn't been breached. Elder Long, Elder Yi, Grandpa Golden Crocodile, Elder Dao Tai, the 4 of you can go and help open the city gates. I don't want to waste any more time, Lu Yuan said. Yes, Master. Yes, Your Highness. The 4 of them bowed and flew out at the same time. Long Xiaoyaro and Yi Shishire were ultimate Douluo. Golden Crocodile and the Daotai Douluo had also become half-step ultimate Douluo after consuming Lu Yuan's cosmic barrier-breaking pill. As soon as these 4 great experts joined the battlefield, the situation of the battle changed dramatically in an instant. In just a few minutes, the 4 of them had forcefully destroyed the city gates, and the army began to pour in. The Star Luo Imperial City had fallen. Pass down my orders. All troops are not allowed to harass civilians. You are not allowed to rob or kidnap women. Those who disobey will be beheaded. Lu Yuan gave another order as he watched the army swarming into the Star Luo Imperial City like a tidal wave. Yes, Your Highness, this subordinate understands. This subordinate will immediately pass down the order to not let them touch the commoners in the slightest. But what about the nobles, Your Highness? Golan asked. Nobles? Lu Yuan narrowed his eyes and smiled. Are there nobles in the Starnet royal city? Aren't they all remnants of the Star Luo royal family? Hearing this, Ji Long trembled and instantly understood what Lu Yuan meant. He was going to start a massacre. Go ahead, Lu Yuan said calmly. Subordinate obeys. Ji Long bowed and quickly left. Abuchi, isn't this a little inappropriate? Chihiro Snow asked with a slight frown. The Star Luo royal family had to be killed, but if they killed all the nobles, it would have a negative impact. There's nothing inappropriate about it. These nobles still supported the Star Luo royal family even when our army besieged the city, refusing to surrender no matter what. It's clear that they dislike us. However, our martial soul palace caters to the commoners. As long as they are talents, we will accept them regardless of their status. On the other hand, these nobles represent the nobles. We are bound together by blood. We are born to be at odds with each other. They have been in the Star Luo Empire for hundreds of years. They have deep roots and great influence. That's why they dare to resist. They are only relying on the fact that we don't dare to kill them. Let's see if we dare to kill them. Those who obey us will prosper, and those who oppose us will perish. Right now, the continent belongs to our martial soul palace. Those who dare to defy us will be killed. Killing them will be a deterrent to the remaining forces of the Star Luo Empire. Appeasing these nobles is useless. The butcher's knife is the most effective. Cher, you are very skilled, but your understanding is still limited by the current continent's fixed thinking, Lu Yuan said softly. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but glare at Lu Yuan. You're the best, okay? Of course I'm the best. Lu Yuan giggled and gently embraced Chihiro Snow. Chihiro Snow rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan, then leaned into Lu Yuan's embrace. Lu Yuan lightly patted Chihiro Snow's back, then said indifferently, "Where's Zhu Junlin? Tell him to come over." Not long after Lu Yuan finished speaking, Zhu Junlin arrived. "Greetings, Your Highness Holy Son." Zhu Junlin bowed to Lu Yuan. "May I know what Your Highness Holy Son has summoned me for?" Zhu Junlin asked. "Nothing important. I just want to invite you, the former Duke of Netherworld, to come with me to witness the final destruction of the Star Luo imperial family." Lu Yuan raised his eyelids and said indifferently, "By the way, is Zhu Zhuyun here?" Lu Yuan suddenly thought of something and asked again. "She's here. I'll go call her now," Zhu Junlin said. "Okay, then go." Lu Yuan nodded and said. Zhu Junlin had just said a few words when he came, and then he ran back again. Chihiro Snow glanced at Zhu Junlin's back, then looked at Lu Yuan suspiciously. "Why do you suddenly want to see Zhu Zhuyun? Are you thinking of doing something bad again? Have you taken a fancy to her again?" "Yes, I remember that Zhu Zhuyun's figure is very good. You must be tempted," Chihiro Snow said to himself. "What nonsense are you talking about? How can I be interested in Zhu Zhuyun? She's Zhuqing's sister," Lu Yuan said. "What's wrong with that? Bibi Dong used to be my mother. Didn't you also fall in love with her?" Qian Renxue curled her lips and said. "How can Zhu Zhuyun be compared to Dong Er? She's far worse, okay? Also, who knows how many times she's slept with Davis? I'm a clean freak, okay? You don't want a virgin and want someone who's been used by someone else. And someone who's been used many times?" Lu Yuan said unhappily. "Then why did you call her here?" Chihiro Snow asked. "I once poisoned her. This time, I suddenly remembered, so I wanted to help her get rid of it." Lu Yuan said gently. "You poisoned her?" Chihiro Snow was interested and asked, "What's going on? Tell me." Lu Yuan looked at the slightly excited Chihiro Snow, and the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. He said, "Actually, it's like this." Lu Yuan spoke softly and told him everything that had happened. Lu Yuan didn't even leave out the fact that Zhu Zhuyun wanted to seduce him. After all, Lu Yuan had even revealed a little about the system in his body. As for these things, there was nothing to hide from Chihiro Snow. Chapter 1035. Chihiro Snow pouted, glanced at Lu Yuan, snorted and said, "Looks like you've put in a lot of effort for Zhu Zhuqing. You're so considerate of her and even helped her resolve her sisterhood. Mph, I've never seen you think of me. You only know how to piss me off every time. Hey, Cher, you have to have a conscience when you speak. I've spent the most effort on you. Don't tell me you've forgotten all of it." Lu Yuan raised his eyebrows, looked at Chihiro Snow and said, "Is that so? But I really don't remember." Chihiro Snow's eyes flashed with a hint of slyness as she said with a smile, "You really don't remember? Then I'll help you recall, okay?" Lu Yuan said with a smile. "Ah, don't. Someone's here." Woo. Chihiro Snow was completely speechless. She opened her big bright eyes and stared fiercely at Lu Yuan. Her face couldn't help but blush. "Well, it's so sweet." Lu Yuan let go of Chihiro Snow and stared at her. He licked his lips gently, as if he was still savoring the aftertaste. Chihiro Snow glared at Lu Yuan. This guy dared to kiss her in front of so many people. It was really embarrassing. "Do you remember now?" Lu Yuan hugged Chihiro Snow's waist and smiled. "Chimph, no." Chihiro Snow tilted her head and snorted. "Oh. Then my Schwerer wants to do it again." Lu Yuan's eyes narrowed, and a hint of a smile flashed across his eyes. Hearing those words, Qian Renxue started to panic in her heart. She hurriedly said, Don't mess around. I remember now, okay? That's right. A person should have a conscience, right, Cher?" Lu Yuan said with a chuckle. Hearing this, Chen Renshue glanced at Lu Yuan in annoyance. Lu Yuan didn't care. He gently kissed Chihiro Snow's forehead and held her in his arms. Not long after, Zhu Junlin arrived with Zhu Zhuyun. Long time no see, Zhu Zhuyun. Lu Yuan gently released Chihiro Snow and glanced at Zhu Zhuyun. It has indeed been a long time, Lu Yuan. Zhu Zhuyun looked at Lu Yuan with a strange look in her eyes. How dare you call His Highness the Holy Sun by his name? Hurry up and kneel down to apologize. Zhu Junlin was shocked when he heard Zhu Zhuyun directly call out Lu Yuan's name. He quickly reprimanded Zhu Zhuyun for fear that it would cause Lu Yuan's dissatisfaction. There's no need. Aren't names meant to be called? What's wrong with that? Lu Yuan waved his hand casually and said to Zhu Junlin, you may leave first. Zhu Zhuyun, stay. Yes, Your Highness. Zhu Junlin glanced at Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuyun ambiguously. There was a hint of ecstasy in his eyes as he quickly left. Zhu Junlin's gaze couldn't escape Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow's senses. Lu Yuan's mouth twitched. Did this old man misunderstand something? Chihiro Snow also raised her eyebrows and said in a strange tone, Your Highness the Holy Sun, do I need to leave first too? You can if you want. I don't mind. Lu Yuan glared at Chihiro Snow. This woman knew that he didn't have such thoughts, but she was still teasing him. Did she think that it was fun? Mph, flirtatious radish. Chen Renshue pouted her small mouth, looking proud. Of course, she knew that Lu Yuan didn't have such thoughts. However, she also knew that Zhu Zhuyun had her own thoughts. From Lu Yuan's words, she knew that Zhu Zhuyun was an ambitious and scheming woman. Therefore, she wouldn't let Lu Yuan be alone with Zhu Zhuyun. After all, although Lu Yuan could protect her, he couldn't resist a woman throwing herself at him. Lu Yuan was young and vigorous, and he was extremely capable. What if he was attracted to her? That was hard to say. Therefore, she had to stay and observe. It wasn't that she firmly refused to allow Lu Yuan to find another woman. After all, even Bibidon had been taken in by Lu Yuan. Her expectations in her heart had been lowered again and again. However, she absolutely wouldn't allow Lu Yuan to find a woman who was scheming and liked to cause trouble. Clearly, in her opinion, Zhu Zhuyun belonged to this kind of woman. Lu Yuan glanced at Chihiro Snow and didn't care. He and Chihiro Snow had a tacit understanding. He knew exactly what Chihiro Snow wanted to do. However, he didn't dislike it. After all, Chihiro Snow had a sense of propriety and didn't cause too much trouble. Lu Yuan's gaze swept over Zhu Zhuyun's body. His expression was calm. Roughly speaking, he hadn't seen Zhu Zhuyun for nearly 5 years. Zhu Zhuyun had become more and more mature. Putting everything else aside, Zhu Zhuyun's figure was really good. Especially that pair of proud breasts. They were slightly better than Zhu Zhuqing's. But then again, it seemed that the women of the Netherworld family all had such hot and sexy figures. He didn't know how they raised them. Lu Yuan's thoughts gradually drifted away. However, he quickly pulled them back. Not bad. In 5 years, your cultivation has also reached level 59. Lu Yuan was a little surprised as he sized Zhu Zhuyun up. Zhu Zhuyun was 6 years older than Zhu Zhuqing. She was the same age as Hulena. She was only 25 years old this year, but her soul power was already at level 59. Naturally, she couldn't compare to the woman beside Lu Yuan. However, she could still be considered a top-tier talent. If Zhu Zhuqing hadn't met him and hadn't had those fortuitous encounters, she would have been about the same age as Zhu Zhuyun. Of course, Zhu Zhuqing was much stronger than her now. Lu Yuan roughly estimated that Zhu Zhuqing was at level 74 or 75. After all, Zhu Zhuqing's 7th soul ring was a 100,000-year soul ring bestowed by the gods. After absorbing it, she would reach level 74 at the very least. It had been a few months since he returned from the Sea God's Island. It was very normal for Zhu Zhuqing to increase another level. It wasn't strange for her to reach level 75. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Zhu Zhuyun shook her head and said, I'm only a level 59 Soul King. Not to mention you, I'm afraid I'm still far from Zhu Qing. Zhu Zhuqing had already surpassed her 5 years ago. Now, the gap between them had widened even further. After hearing this, Lu Yuan smiled and didn't say anything. He and Zhu Zhuqing were both top-tier talents. Both of them had cheats before, so there was no need to compare them. I called you here today because of the jade water spirit pill. This poison has been buried in your body for 5 years. It's time to remove it. Lu Yuan said plainly. I thought you called me here because you missed me. So it's because of this. Zhu Zhuyun had a lonely look on her face. Don't play this game with me. Speak properly. Lu Yuan glared at Zhu Zhuyun. Does this woman think I don't know her character? Who is she trying to show that lonely look to me? You heartless stinky man. I like you so much, but you're still glaring at me. Zhu Zhuyun clutched her chest, looking as if she was hurt. Chapter 1036. The corner of Lu Yuan's mouth twitched. He felt Chihiro Snow's strange and teasing gaze, and he instantly felt uncomfortable. Zhu Zhuyun, if you continue to fool around with me, believe it or not, I'll throw you out. You'll never be able to get rid of the poison in your body. Lu Yuan glared at Zhu Zhuyun and said in a strict tone. Okay, I'll stop fooling around. Don't be angry. Besides, I'm not lying. I really do like you. Zhu Zhuyun said in an aggrieved manner. She wasn't lying. Lu Yuan's talent, strength, appearance, elegance, and so on made her admire him very much. After all, outstanding men were always popular with girls, not to mention those who were as outstanding as Lu Yuan. Zhu Zhuyun was naturally no exception. After seeing Lu Yuan's strength, she naturally fell in love with Lu Yuan unknowingly. However, Zhu Zhuyun's desire for power surpassed her own feelings. She liked the feeling of being in a high position and controlling everything. Of course, it was also because of this that she liked Lu Yuan even more. After all, as long as she became Lu Yuan's woman, she could obtain all of these things. Unfortunately, Lu Yuan had never liked women who had a strong desire for power. At least, he wouldn't let her be his woman. Among his women, Bibidon and Jiu Yuana all had great power. However, they weren't interested in power. They cared more about feelings. Lu Yuan was the same. He wasn't interested in power. He had always believed that strength was more important than power. As long as one's fist was strong enough, no one would dare to provoke them. On the contrary, no matter how much power one had, like the former Snow Knight Emperor, the emperor of a country, so what? In the eyes of a true powerhouse, he could still be killed if he wanted to. He was just an ant. Lu Yuan took a deep breath and looked at Zhu Zhuyun with a calm gaze without a trace of emotion. However, this calm gaze made Zhu Zhuyun's heart tremble, and she became more honest. She wasn't afraid of Lu Yuan getting angry because she knew that Lu Yuan wouldn't kill her. On the contrary, the more emotional Lu Yuan was, the more he would remember her. It would be easier for her to capture Lu Yuan. However, this kind of calm and emotionless expression made her feel slightly uneasy. After all, she didn't know what Lu Yuan was thinking. The unknown was the most terrifying. Give me your hand, Lu Yuan said faintly. Oh. Zhu Zhuyun uttered an oh and raised her jade-like arm. Lu Yuan stretched out 2 fingers and placed them on Zhu Zhuyun's snow-white wrist, closing his eyes to feel it. Zhu Zhuyun felt the faint warmth from Lu Yuan's fingers, and a strange feeling arose in her heart. She stared blankly at the side of Lu Yuan's face. She couldn't help but exclaim in her heart. Lu Yuan's appearance was really shockingly handsome, to a whole new level of handsomeness. So handsome. Zhu Zhuyun murmured softly. What did you say? Lu Yuan frowned, opened his eyes and asked. I said you are so handsome. Zhu Zhuyun didn't hide it. This sentence is true. Lu Yuan didn't hesitate to accept this praise. Other things were fine, but to say that he was handsome, this was the truth. Although he was modest, he wouldn't be overly modest. Excessive modesty would be hypocrisy. Although he wasn't a good person, he wasn't a hypocrite, let alone a hypocrite. If someone said that he was arrogant or something, he would admit half of it. After all, Sometimes he was really arrogant. As for why he admitted half of it, it was because he was arrogant and had enough strength. Arrogance also came from confidence. Having strength was called acting tough. Without strength, one was called a fool. Your situation is still good. The poison is still like the one I planted. It hasn't spread, Lu Yuan said. He took out a medicine bottle, poured out a yellow pill, and handed it to Zhu Zhuyun. Eat it. Eat it and your poison will be cured. Zhu Zhuyun picked up the yellow antidote and looked at it carefully. She said, I suddenly don't want to eat it. I think your poison is quite good. As she said, she looked at Lu Yuan affectionately. Eat it. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Lu Yuan gently pushed Zhu Zhuyun's hand. The antidote in Zhu Zhuyun's hand flew directly into her mouth. Lu Yuan lifted Zhu Zhuyun's chin. With a gulp, the antidote suddenly went into her stomach. The matter is settled. You can go. Lu Yuan waved his sleeves and said. Huh. Zhu Zhuyun was stunned. She was going to leave just like that. I'm not going. Zhu Zhuyun rejected him firmly. If she left now, she didn't know when she would see Lu Yuan again. She was very lonely by herself. It wasn't easy for her to see Lu Yuan again. She wasn't going to leave so easily. That's not up to you. Men, take her away. Lu Yuan waved his hand, and two soul sages immediately rushed over. One of them locked onto Zhu Zhuyun. Be careful. Don't hurt her. After all, she's my sister-in-law. All right, take her away, Lu Yuan said. The two soul sages started to move once Lu Yuan gave the order. Hey, don't touch me. I'm not going. I'm not going. Lu Yuan, you heartless man. Zhu Zhuyun struggled. She didn't want to leave. She kept shouting. However, she was only a soul king. How could she break free from the restraints of two soul sages? She was quickly dragged away. You're quite ruthless. She's a delicate beauty. How can you drag her away just like that? Chihiro Snow laughed as he asked. What else can I do? Leave her here to seduce me for no reason? I don't mind, but can you stand it? Lu Yuan said. Chihiro Snow snorted. He didn't answer. Zhu Zhuyun was flirting with Lu Yuan in front of her. She couldn't stand it. She was actually very happy when Lu Yuan asked his men to drag Zhu Zhuyun away. She only said that to tease Lu Yuan. She didn't expect to be choked by Lu Yuan's words. Let's go, share. Let's go to the Star Luo Imperial Palace and send the members of the royal family off. Lu Yuan said with a smile. Chihiro Snow didn't answer. She only nodded. Lu Yuan carried Chihiro Snow. He turned into a streak of golden light and flew towards the Star Luo Imperial Palace. The titled Douluo beside Lu Yuan followed. Of course, the pitiful soul Douluo, Zhu Junlin, was also with them. As he couldn't fly, he was carried by Du Gubo. He used to be the Grand Duke of the Netherworld. He was also the main contributor to this operation. Seeing that the Netherworld family was so close to the Star Luo Imperial Palace, Lu Yuan specially asked him to send them off. Yes, he was that kind. Lu Yuan and the others were very fast. When they arrived at the Star Luo Imperial Palace, the Martial Soul Palace's Soul Master Legion and the Dragon King Hall's Soul Engineer Legion had just arrived. They were about to encircle the Star Luo Imperial Palace. Lu Yuan and the others came at the right time. Chapter 1037. Kill. The Soul Engineer legions from the Martial Soul Palace took the lead and charged in. The Soul Engineer legions from the Dragon King Palace didn't want to be outdone either. Lu Yuan stood in mid-air with Chihiro Snow in his arms. He looked down at them as they attacked the Star Luo Imperial Palace. The Star Luo Imperial Palace was blown into ruins by me. It's only been 5 years, but it's been rebuilt. It looks pretty good too. Looking at the majestic buildings below, a trace of surprise flashed in Lu Yuan's eyes as he exclaimed. Qian Runxue rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan and said, You said it yourself that it's been 5 years. With the Star Luo Imperial family's power, it's easy for them to build an imperial palace in 5 years. However, they must have spent a lot of money to build such a large imperial palace. Yes, that's why I didn't let them bomb the palace this time. After all, this place will be our territory soon. I have to protect what's mine. Lu Yuan smiled. Chihiro Snow was a little amused as he looked at Lu Yuan. He asked, I'm suddenly a little curious. How did you bomb the Star Luo Imperial Palace? That's how it exploded. A single Class 9 soul cannon shell reduced the entire Star Luo Imperial Palace to ashes, Lu Yuan said softly. Is that thing that powerful? Chihiro Snow asked as he raised his eyebrows. Is the holy sword that I gave you powerful? Lu Yuan asked. It's pretty powerful. Chihiro Snow nodded and said. This Class 9 soul tool, the holy sword, could greatly increase her abilities. Every time she used the holy sword to unleash a soul skill, the strength of her soul skills would increase by a lot. The holy sword can increase your abilities by a frightening amount, and the destructive power of a Class 9 soul cannon shell will be equally frightening. If you're hit by a Class 9 soul cannon shell, you'll probably be severely injured. Don't underestimate it. It's a weapon that can kill a titled Douluo. Of course, that's only limited to those below rank 95. Transcendent Douluo aren't that weak. Furthermore, a Class 9 soul cannon shell has another special characteristic, and that is its area of effect. Its range is very wide, and a single shell can raise the entire Star Luo Imperial Palace to the ground. This isn't just empty talk. Lu Yuan stroked Chihiro Snow's long hair and said with a smile. So this thing is actually so powerful. Chihiro Snow pouted his pretty lips and asked, then, is a Class 9 soul cannon shell more valuable, or is the holy sword more valuable? Lu Yuan hooked Chihiro Snow's nose and laughed. Of course it's the divine sword. I made it just for you, and there's only one of it in the world. I used countless precious materials to make it, and it has the potential to become a Class 10 soul tool. Of course I'll give you the best. Do you even need to ask? After hearing this, Chihiro Snow smiled sweetly and hugged Lu Yuan tightly. Below the Imperial Palace, the Star Luo Imperial Palace's last line of defense had been torn apart. The members of the Star Luo Imperial family had been captured by the Soul Master Legions of the Martial Soul Palace and the Soul Engineer Legions of the Dragon King Palace. The current emperor of the Star Luo Empire, Dai Zhongming, the previous emperor Dai Tianfeng, Davis, and the remaining members of the Imperial family were all here. They were all chased out of the Imperial Palace's main hall. Let's go down and take a look. Lu Yuan pulled Chihiro Snow's hand and went down. Dugubo and the other titled Douluo followed behind Lu Yuan. Greetings, Your Highness. Greetings, my lord. Everyone from the Martial Soul Palace and the Dragon King Palace knelt on the ground. Lu Yuan waved his hand and gestured for them to stand up. Dai Tianfeng, we meet again. Lu Yuan's gaze ignored Dai Zhongming and landed on Dai Tianfeng. It's you. I knew it was you. You bastard, so you're the Martial Soul Palace's holy son. You've really schemed well. You've fooled everyone in the world. Dai Tianfeng glared at Lu Yuan. His eyes were bloodshot, and he looked as if he wanted to skin Lu Yuan alive. Our scheme wasn't bad. I can only say that you people are too stupid. A new superpower popped up out of nowhere, and you even caused a ruckus with the Martial Soul Palace. Didn't you suspect anything? Although our plan was ingenious, it wasn't flawless. It's just that you all secretly laughed when you saw someone going against the Martial Soul Palace. You just casually checked and accepted it. You didn't know that my plan was based on your mentality. Sure enough, you're all a bunch of brainless idiots. The Snowy Night Emperor was like that, and so are you. Lu Yuan smiled faintly. You. Dai Tianfeng trembled in anger at Lu Yuan. He glared at Lu Yuan with eyes full of hatred. Lu Yuan ignored Dai Tianfeng's gaze. His gaze swept past the crowd and stopped on Davis. Oh, isn't this the Crown Prince, Davis? How did you end up like this? Lu Yuan's lips curled into a smile. Stop pretending, Lu Yuan. It's all your fault that I ended up like this. I really want to eat your flesh, drink your blood, and tear you to pieces. Davis glared at Lu Yuan with a ferocious expression. Lu Yuan was the one who crippled him, causing him to end up like this. His hatred for Lu Yuan had reached its peak. Pretentious. Wasn't this what you liked to do the most back then? Since you guys attacked Zhu Qing, I'll cripple you. This is a form of reciprocity. You can't blame anyone for this. As for eating my flesh, drinking my blood, and tearing me to pieces, I don't think you have the ability to do so. Don't worry. Your brothers and sisters will accompany you. You won't be alone, Lu Yuan said with a chuckle. Davis became even angrier. He glared at Lu Yuan with bloodshot eyes. When he saw Zhu Junzhen behind Lu Yuan, he suddenly had an idea. He said angrily, "Where's Zhu Yun? What did you do to Zhu Yun?" Zhu Yun. Lu Yuan looked at Davis strangely. "I didn't expect you to still remember Zhu Yun. I'm a little surprised. But don't worry. She's my sister-in-law. Of course, I won't hurt her. I'll take good care of her for you. To be honest, Zhu Yun's figure is pretty good." Lu Yuan seemed to have thought of something. He revealed an ambiguous look and said with a smile, "You fart." Davis's eyes suddenly became bloodshot when he heard Lu Yuan's words. He pointed at Lu Yuan and spat out a mouthful of blood 3 meters away. He fainted immediately. Damn, is your mental endurance that bad? But to be able to spit blood 3 meters away, that's awesome. Lu Yuan couldn't help but give Davis a thumbs up. Unfortunately, Davis couldn't see it anymore. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.